Okay, those minutes go by fast. Did anybody get a chance to network? Give me like a thumbs up or like a clap. What do we got? Okay. I actually had a chance to network. I popped in and met somebody who is joining me from Peru, a friend of mine. I'm curious, where is everybody from? We have had speakers joining us from all over the world and have many, many more to come. And I am excited for our next speaker because if you can believe it, we haven't actually talked about cheese. How have we not talked about vegan cheese yet today? So we are going to hop up and bring up our next speaker. Let's get her up. Anna, I will hand it over to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Luz, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Väcka. In Väcka, we create and design high-quality plant-based cheese, mixing tradition with technologies and values of this century. Our story started when Maxime, the co-founder, and I went through a plant-based diet transition in 2013, and we found out immediately that cheese was really hard to give up and that plant-based cheese sucks. And this is a really common feeling. Most of the veggie consumers are saying there is a lack of good options at hand. So in 2021, we launched a solution. We launched a range of 6 products on the market, some of them to spread, to melt, and mature. And at the beginning, all these products were based on nuts. But now we are in our way to launch a new range of nut-free products because we want to be even more sustainable and affordable. In that sense, this pumpkin cheddar was the first step in that direction. And as for the melted cheese, our R&D team has discovered a new ingredient that is a side stream from the agriculture industry that has amazing results in terms of meltiness and dairy flavor. Based on this discovery, we are filing a patent, and this is going to be on the market in December. And all our products are fermented because we understood from the beginning that animal-based cheese is the result of a long relationship between animal-based milk and microorganism strain. Thousands of years of R&D. But in plant-based cheese, everything is new. So we need to unlock the potential of microorganisms, but by using fermentation and technology. This way, we are like Tinder because we are finding this perfect match between plant-based substrate and microorganism strain in order to create the future of delicious plant-based cheese. This way, we are going from the Väcka of the present, that is already really tasty, to the Väcka of the future. We can even improve the taste, the texture, and the meltiness in the final result. This innovative approach, the brand, and the strong community is our competitive advantage. Also, the taste that is the result of years of research. We have a community of 45K of followers in our social media platform that we reach by organic growth. And when you have a good product, people talk, and investors, entrepreneurs, influencers are tasting the product and are sharing the good news about Väcka. By bootstrapping, we managed to reach 400 stores and 100 restaurants across the country. And for the next year, we want to be in the most important retailer stores and continue with the expansion of the brand. By the way, Väcka means to wake up, and we want to hear that name across languages. Because our mission is to offer healthy but especially delicious plant-based cheese options not only for vegan people but for everyone. Statistics show that cheese alternatives are going to reach a 4 billion global market in 2025. We managed to reach 120,000 euros in revenues in our first year, and we want to reach 12 million by 2024. Lucky for us, we are not alone in this journey. Many of our supporters are big idea ventures, food hubs, and universities across Europe. And for example, the EIT food program select us. And among 500 startups, plant-based startups all over the world, we were selected by the Carrefour Plant-Based Contact as part of the 10 winners. We have an amazing team full of rock stars. Eileen, our R&D leader, she is specialized in microorganisms and protein. Maxime, he has more than 10 years of experience in plant-based cheese development. Sonia, a food scientist with much experience in brands like Ouro and Current Food. And Máximo Cabrera, a well-known plant-based chef from Latin America that is helping us in the culinary formulation. And personally, I am an experienced entrepreneur with the passion of creating positive impact brands holding strong communities. but we are 11 skilled and passionate people working together for Väcka. We are raising a 1.5 million seed round because time to market is important, especially in this plant-based cheese category, and we want to continue with the expansion of the brand, scaling to 3,000 stores, and launching these new products, 6 new products on the market for the next year. So I do invite you to join us to this tasty adventure because it's time to Väcka. Thank you very much, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, is everybody getting as hungry as I am? I haven't had a chance to eat yet today, and I really want some cheese now. Thank you, Ana Luz, and we are excited to have our next panel up. This is just a reminder because I can hear all kinds of pings of LinkedIn. Like, I think my LinkedIn is blowing up. Is your LinkedIn blowing up? This is your reminder to make sure that you have filled in your profile information, because as people are up on stage, you can hover over their name and connect with them. You also can hover over different people that are in the audience and connect with them too. So let's get that networking sesh going, okay? The next panel that we are going to bring up is a topic that I don't think a single food conference this year has covered, and it's completely crazy. So we're going to be talking about the future of food and infant nutrition. How did we end up in the crisis that we are in today in America and beyond with the infant formula shortage? What have founders been facing for years on end trying to innovate in this space? And how the heck did we let a product category that's worth 5 to 10% of the global liquid dairy market go completely untapped when it comes to the future of food and sustainability? I'm going to hand it over to Sharon from GFI, and let's hear about the future of infant nutrition.
Thanks, Jenny. What a great day so far. I think, all of you in the audience are going to be really excited for this next session that we have for you. So thank you all for joining us to discuss the future of infant nutrition. I'm Sharon Murray, Investor Engagement Manager at the Good Food Institute. For those of you unfamiliar with GFI, we are an international nonprofit that is dedicated to reimagining meat, dairy, and egg production. As a global think tank, GFI advances alternative protein science and research, mobilizes resources and talent, and empowers partners across the food system, including all of you, to create a food system that is sustainable, secure, and just. Now, turning to the topic of the session that I'm so excited to discuss, I don't expect it will be news to anyone, or certainly I hope not, that the infant nutrition industry underwent a crisis this year. In early 2022, Abbott Nutrition was forced to conduct a product recall of contaminated infant formula due to the unsanitary conditions of its facility, which led to a temporary shutdown by the US FDA. This catalyzed an infant formula shortage that was exacerbated by years of policies and legislation that permitted market consolidation of formula production, such that it was concentrated in just a few companies. And then as well as, of course, the ongoing supply chain issues resulting from the pandemic. Today, we're going to dive into the cause of this major shortage, what could have been done to prevent it, and how the industry can move forward to create a more resilient, sustainable supply of the critical nutrition for our infants. So I'm thrilled to have 3 excellent panelists with me today. We have Nadia Schilling of Sprout Organic, Michelle Egger of BioMilk, and Laura Katz of Helena. And so to kick us off, I would just love for each panelist to please introduce yourselves, your companies, and the exciting products that you're developing. So Nadia, if you could please kick us off, and then we'll go to Michelle and Laura.
Beautiful. Thank you. So my name is Nadia, and I'm a director of Sprout Organic. We make organic, plant-based infant formula and healthy plant-based snacks for kids. Inclusiveness is a really important pillar of our company, because unlike other brands, our products are allergen-friendly, making them suitable for almost all children. And I guess our mission as a company is twofold. Number one is just to provide a positive choice for families, and number 2 is to become one of the most influential kids nutrition brands globally.
Fantastic. It's great to be here. Thanks everybody for joining at VWS Pathfinder. My name is Michelle Egger. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BioMilk. We are creating breast milk outside of the body, or trying to recreate, although we will never be bioidentical by any means, utilizing human cell culture. And we specifically started this endeavor because of my co-founder and CSO, Layla, PhD cell biologist who had an incredibly hard time breastfeeding and fundamentally asked, isn't this a cellular process? Couldn't we do it outside of the body? Is there a better way than just being able to feed formula when exclusive breastfeeding falls short? We've been on this journey almost 3 years now. We learn something new every single day, but it's an incredibly exciting time, not only to be working in infant nutrition, which I think we'll delve into in this panel more, but also to be female leaders in the food space where we're creating change and impact, not just for our generation, but for future generations.
Thanks, Sharon, for having us here today. Really excited to dive into the category with everybody here. But what we're doing at Helena, where I founded the company and I'm the CEO, is recreating the proteins in breast milk. So we take yeast cells and we train them, program them to become little cell factories that will produce proteins in breast milk, and actually proteins that are found throughout the human body. And for us, we're focused on immune health. So we're targeting proteins found in breast milk and all over our body that help to support immunity, and especially in early life nutrition where it's quite critical. So it's a really exciting time for us to be bringing this product and all the products that everybody here has been talking about to market, because we really need products that provide more choice to parents and provide better health outcomes for infants. That's something that we really care about. We test every single day. So excited to chat with everyone today.
Wonderful. Thank you all. And it's just so exciting to hear of 3 different but very complementary approaches to addressing this most recent crisis, but also just the improvement that we need to see in infant nutrition. So let's dive into that. So, first of all, starting with the crisis, many today are saying that this crisis has been on the horizon for some time. And of course, hindsight is 2020, but given the missions of your companies and you're founding them prior to this crisis, I would certainly believe if any of you said that you did see this coming. And so I'd love to hear from you about, what were you observing that maybe contributed to this belief, led to the founding of your company? And Michelle, let's start with you, please.
Yeah. Well, you already teed us up so nicely earlier, Sharon. I mean, in the United States specifically, infant formula is an oligopoly, which if you haven't taken a macroeconomics course in a while, a reminder is where you have a highly concentrated market, right, with just a few suppliers for goods that we like to say have an inelastic price point. But the reality is that means that there aren't great alternates for parents. And that definitely describes infant nutrition, infant formula today. There just aren't that many options that parents can choose from. And so when you have really unresilient supply chains, these disruptions are felt incredibly widely, because what else is a parent supposed to do who's already weaned their child off breast milk, or maybe never had the opportunity to breastfeed for a variety of biological or societal challenges? And so, as simple as looking at the pandemic, where we saw a number of supply chains that are not nearly as important, like toilet paper, where we saw extreme shortages because of such an outsized demand and really run on product, having an actual shortage, along with the fact that there really aren't good alternates for parents, led to a lot of pain and anguish and frustration for parents in a way that shouldn't ever have happened. I mean, the resiliency of feeding infants is something that should have been a priority from a food security and accessibility standpoint. And frankly, we've allowed big industry to consolidate to a place where there isn't innovation intervening to add more players yet. I think all of us represent the future of that. That is also due to the regulatory hurdle that exists in this field. Rightly so, infant products should go through intense scrutiny to ensure that they're safe and meaningful to the development of a child. But we've created regulatory hurdles in the United States that make it really difficult for smaller companies to be able to afford and meet the requirements for new products. So for instance, for us, where we're using cell culture technology, something that looks kind of like monoclonal antibody to produce components of breast milk outside of the body, the FDA doesn't know how to regulate our product, doesn't have a clear framework to follow. And so there's an incredible amount of work and energy and cost associated with not only defining what these regulatory paradigms should be in the marketplace, but then achieving them. And until we really address some of the structural issues around not supporting innovation in the space and allowing infant formula companies that really haven't changed their formulations dramatically since they were launched in the 40s and 50s, we're going to continue to see these supply chain disruptions and trust lost with parents across the fields.
Thank you. Thank you. Laura or Nadia, anything to add? Nadia, I know you're coming from outside of the US, so perhaps, a bit of a global perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, as an Australian company wanting to enter the US market, we were quite shocked to learn that it's anywhere from an 18 to 24-month process and over $1 million in compliance and regulatory fees to enter the market. And, as you were just saying, this is to deter international competitors by design. So, putting aside what actually happened to Abbott Nutrition and the coronavector contamination, to be honest, like when we first learnt this, we were surprised that, during COVID that there wasn't a global infant formula shortage. Because when we launched our company right during the peak of COVID, it was impossible to get hold of any ingredients, even packaging for that matter. There was a tin shortage and we had to pivot to pouches just to continue supplying our customers. So, I mean, I guess looking back in hindsight, could we say that we predicted what happened in the US? Probably not, but we expected it to be, a global issue. So.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, if you have these challenges in the best of times, and we've seen shocks to the global systems, certainly from COVID, environmental shocks and others that are really exacerbated by animal agriculture, it's a very scary place to start and a scary place to go. So, thrilled that all of you are tackling this issue. You've already started to speak to this, but perhaps where we can go to next is what needs to change. How has the traditional primary dairy-based industry failed to meet consumer needs? Apart from maybe the industry consolidation and some of the issues already raised. And Nadia, would love to start with you there.
Yeah, so around 10% of all infants, will show signs of either an allergy or an intolerance to cow's milk, and that's pretty significant when you think about it, because a lot of those babies as well, up to 60% of them, will be allergic to soy proteins, and right now, quite literally nothing exists on the market except for hypoallergenic infant formulas, which still contain hydrolyzed milk proteins, so they're not, completely suitable. And they also have a really high rate of infant rejection due to their bitter taste. And that's essentially, the driving force behind why Sprout Organic was founded, because of the gap we saw in the market. There just literally isn't anything to help those babies. So, I mean, in addition to that, there's also a lot of restrictions around the types of ingredients that you can use in infant formula, like ingredients that are highly nutritious for infants and would improve formulas for what they are currently. So things like, I guess, chia seed and flaxseed oil, even pea protein, things like that, because they're deemed novel foods, despite being consumed for quite literally thousands of years and being backed by, quite robust scientific research. The food regulations themselves are outdated and, quite limiting. So yeah, I mean, not to mention that a large percentage of formulas on the market today also contain glucose syrup or corn syrup as their primary carbohydrate source, simply because it's cheap, and that's not great. Like glucose syrup obviously has a very high glycemic index. It negatively affects babies' self-regulation of energy intake. It influences their obesity risk by shaping taste preferences towards sweet foods, and also their rejection of bitter tasting foods like vegetables in childhood. So I really think that infant formula is kind of yet to be hit by the clean ingredient movement, and that's certainly something that we're looking to change as a company.
And Sharon, I can come in and kind of add on to that. You asked what needs to change. And how I think about change is kind of in three ways that Nadia touched on so much of. It's regulatory, infrastructure, which we need, as we saw with the facility and the contamination there, and access to capital. For regulatory, there's a huge uncharted territory on how to regulate novel components for infant formula, as Nadia said, more plant-based ingredients, cell culture made ingredients, fermentation made ingredients, and creating a path forward that involves stakeholders across regulatory agencies, industry, academia to validate some of the data that we would need to show that these things are safe and hopefully efficacious. It's a lot of work. And I think that regulators need to be focusing on this, and we need to be working together as an industry to help them think about these frameworks, because I don't know that they're going to do it on their own. For infrastructure, I mean, Abbott just announced, I think like a couple days ago, they're going to be investing $500 million to build a new facility. I don't know if any of us could justify raising $500 million to build a facility on VC capital. It doesn't make any sense. And so to create infrastructure for people like us, however that can be done, whether it's through government grants or other alternative capital structures, that's critical, because without space to safely manufacture, we can't do anything. And then I would say the last thing that we need to address is access to capital. And what we're doing is expensive. It's really expensive. And that's because, you know, as was said earlier by Michelle, it's like important for us to have rigorous standards for these products, but that comes with clinical studies and cell-based studies and all of these things that take a lot of time and a lot of money, and they're so critical, but we need to be able to do them. So I think it's, in my mind, it's those three things that need to start to change for us to change the category completely.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we'll certainly circle back to, I think, some of those really critical points later in the discussion, and, you know, some of the challenges that businesses like yours are facing when they're clearly incredibly critical to grow and scale to address, you know, many of these challenges that you've all shared so eloquently. Laura, sticking with you for a moment, and, you know, I might know your answer to that given some of the challenges we've already discussed, but, you know, do you think consumers, companies, and investors are seeing infant nutrition as a priority? And, you know, has this really changed since the shortage began?
In my experience, it's changed since the shortage began. It's very clear to people why this is important. And a few years ago when we got started, it wasn't quite the same. Feeding babies is often a woman's responsibility, not always a parent's, but it's typically a woman's responsibility. And that's not something that's always on the mind of investors. With the shortages and everything happening, there's a lot more spotlight on why it's important to invest and create new products and new options for parents. It's, you know, we still have to get people there to actually make the investment. That's a whole other hurdle to overcome. But I think the conversations are becoming easier to have because it's much more in people's face than it was even a few years ago when, you know, I'm sure Michelle and I and Nadia were like knocking on people's doors saying, hey, like, we need to be making changes here. And it was much harder to get people to listen then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, perhaps at least this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, I think there's a lot more attention on that this is a problem. I'm still not sold that people really see the full opportunity of innovating in this space. I mean, we still get questions like, yeah, but breast milk is free. So like, couldn't people during the shortage have just found someone else who was breastfeeding at the time? Or like, isn't donor milk a thing? And there's just such a lack of understanding amongst the investor community in this space of how many other societal challenges are intertwined with infant feeding and caring for a young child in the household. that frankly, like, companies and VCs alone should not be solving that problem. But the reality is that women are in a position frequently as primary caregiver on a newborn child that there are these limiters, that something like asking, well, isn't breast milk free, is not meant offensively, but it's really, really hard to come up with a response that's not just like, has anyone mentioned the patriarchy in a while to you? Like, I'm not sure like how to begin without, disentangling a lifetime of infrastructure and kind of institutions that you've been raised within, to not see that there is huge opportunity, because literally every baby born on this planet has to be fed, and there are trade-offs made by the family to feed that child in whatever way necessary in the first 6 months to year of life.
Yeah, perhaps who is it free for might be a good follow-up question there. Nadia, please go ahead.
Oh, I was actually just going to say that the contamination issue actually made it actually harder for us to fundraise, because we found that the investors we were speaking to became even more risk adverse to infant formula, which is really unfortunate. They almost became frightened of it. We found that kind of before that happened, and we were just, in our concept stage before we'd actually commercialized and released the product. It was a lot easier for us to raise money. But yeah, it's unfortunately had a bit of a negative impact on us as a company.
That's difficult to hear given the challenges that have already been raised. But maybe we can try to make this a little more clear for investors right here and right now. So, why should they care, both from a financial, opportunity perspective, market size, the inelasticity, Michelle, that you mentioned earlier, and then also for investors and others concerned about, the environment, sustainability broadly, and animal welfare. Why should they care about this?
There are so many reasons. I'll try to simplify them without just ranting on my soapbox here. First of all, if you want to talk about impact on human life, investors love hockey sticks, right? They love to talk about this like slow growth and sudden. There is only one moment of growth in our life where we experience a hockey stick, and that is the first 1,000 days. I mean, that is the time where we set the trajectory of our development and health. A majority of our trajectory and health is within that first 1,000 days or 3 years. And so if you want to talk about combating malnutrition, looking at inadequate intake of protein, allergenicity, like that is the period that is so beautiful to be able to intervene and have huge impact. And that's not lost on philanthropic organizations. It's why you see groups like Rockefeller Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation focusing so much on infant nutrition, because this space has such an outsized impact on the determinants of health throughout your life in a later stage. So like, as if that weren't enough of a reason, and we wanted to put that on the shelf because maybe human development doesn't matter to us or something as humans. You're talking about at least 5% of the liquid global dairy market ends up in infant formula. So you may be a household that's entirely trying to avoid dairy in your life because of the greenhouse gas emissions and other environmental impacts of dairy. But if exclusive breastfeeding isn't working for you or was never an option, infant formula, unless there are really great plant-based options like what Nadia is working on, is a really poor substitute, and it does environmental harm. And as we think about replacing animal agriculture on a grand scale, it's really challenging and multifaceted. But when you start to talk about specific products where you're solving a problem for a parent, something that's cultural or societal or personal rather than environmental, that green premium, as many would call it in climate change, is much less important, because what you're really talking about is doing the job better for them rather than asking for them to pay a premium that's better for the environment. And it means we get to bring really innovative and impressive products to market that have huge benefits that parents can achieve with us because it's the right thing to do, not because it's just better for the planet. And that's an incredibly important way to be able to frame products for consumers. And lastly, I think all of these newer companies are really focused at sustainability and impact at our core. We are a new generation of women innovating in infant nutrition. We used to affectionately call the infant formula area men in dark suits, because that was everybody you met from one of the big formula companies. This panel represents a majority of the faces now that you're seeing in these new companies. So as you start to talk about having impact from day one, the way we treat our employees, the way we think about the planet, the way we think about our communities is different. And we get to have an impact long before our products launch just by how we operate as entities. And that we get to be incredibly proud of regardless of the outcome of our products in the marketplace.
I love all of that. And I really like the point you made that there is such a clear value proposition here, perhaps beyond even some other alternative protein products that, at least as they stand today. So all excellent points. And Laura, it sounds like you have something to add.
Just one more thing to add, that why should they care? In my mind, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you should care, but why an investor should care is the market opportunity. And that's what they care about. They care about capital, and it's a big market. I don't think anyone realizes how big this category is. As Michelle said, 5% of liquid dairy product goes into infant formula globally. And I think it's by 2030, we're looking at like $80 or so billion market. That's not a small market. And starting there, and so much of what we are all doing goes beyond infant formula, beyond that first life. There's much more applications. So the market only gets bigger from there. So even if you can capture a small percentage of that market, you could get the investors the returns they're looking for if you're savvy about it. And I think that's why they should care, because it's a really critical issue, but it's not a small issue either. And the VC structure, I mean, they don't want to be going after small things. They're going after big things. So I think that's quite important to them, for any investor here listening and interested.
Yeah, thank you. All excellent points. Huge market as well as diverse, applications is, yeah, exactly, in my opinion, at least what all of the investors should be looking for. So we've kind of circled around this topic throughout the discussion, but I'd like to turn more to your personal experiences building your companies. You've mentioned some of the challenges that are faced on the financing side and the regulatory side. Of course, the audience will know that the investment environment has been struggling, really in the last, especially the last half year. So would love to hear from all of you, what are some of the challenges you're experiencing, and what are some of the solutions that you'd like to see, which, perhaps some audience members here can help with. And Laura, let's start with you, please.
The biggest challenge we face is time. It takes a long time to get these products to market and a lot of capital. And this isn't a traditional consumer product. It's not a regular food product. And so our timing to market is much longer than most products that any consumer or food investor is going to be familiar with. So with that comes the challenge of explaining the why, raising the capital that you need to accomplish all the milestones before you get to market, and anything that comes with timeline. And for us, something that we really think about is, well, what else can we be doing? We're building so much value. We're building out a technology platform that we can use in so many different ways. And what does that mean for us in terms of getting to market with something that will allow us to use our technology platform while we continue to have this North Star of infant formula? And, as a business, at the end of the day, we're all building a business, and we have to generate revenue at some point. So that's something that we've been working through and really thinking about, because it is really challenging to tell an investor when you're raising money, or even your team who's so excited, hey, like, we still have to go through all of these regulatory hurdles, and we still have to wait on FDA. We don't know how long they're going to take for certain things, and we have to do a clinical study. So there's all of these things on our path, and it's figuring out what you can do with what you've built and having that vision and that North Star there. It's not that you're losing focus, but it's if we all want to build a robust business, it's infant formula and what else. So I think that's been, for us, it's been a big aha moment, and we have a lot that we can do, but it's certainly just timing is a huge challenge.
Nadia and Michelle, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I mean, luckily in Australia we have managed to get regulatory approval and into the market, but I understand we're doing something completely different, obviously plant-based ingredients. But when we did launch in July last year, one of our biggest challenges was actually really struggling to keep up with demand. And that sounds like a good problem to have as a business, and especially a startup. But as a formula company that parents rely on, it isn't, because they quite literally depend on you, and that responsibility is huge. So, yeah, as a small startup trying to enter the market and get to those ordering volumes where people take you seriously, and booking time on specialist manufacturing plants is a huge challenge. In terms of challenges with fundraising, we are going through a raise right now. It ends in a couple of weeks, so I can't speak to the outcome of that yet. But I will say that the general sentiment towards plant-based has made it a little bit harder for us at the moment as well. But we're remaining positive.
Thank you. And as we have about a minute left here, to finish, hopefully looking forward and on a high note, 5 words or less, what are you most excited about as you look to the future of the industry? And Michelle, let's start with you.
More fantastic people joining this field. And if you want to join us, I'm going to drop in the chat. We're adding some non-technical roles starting at the end of this year and in the new year. Come and join us.
Perfect. Laura.
Let's take down the big guys. Those are my words. And also, I would work for Michelle if I didn't have Helena. So definitely apply. And we always have roles live as well. So Biomilk or Helena, one of them, you can pick where you want to work.
Great. And Nadia.
From hearing from both of you today, I think it's incredible what you're working on. Precision fermentation absolutely is the future of infant formula. So I'm really excited to see the direction that it takes it in, and perhaps there'll even be a hybrid plant-based with certain ingredients to help enter the market at some stage. So I think, who knows, maybe one day we could all kind of team up.
Love that. Partnerships being built right here and right now. So we're unfortunately out of time. I think I could speak with the 3 of you all day, but thank you all so much for your insightful discussion, and really for all that you're doing to deliver innovative, sustainable, and healthy infant nutrition. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. That topic is so important to our food system, and I cannot even begin to tell you how many people have told me that it's not a big enough market, who really needs vegan and cell-based infant formula. And I tell these investors, like, what are you talking about? 100% of us were babies. Of course it's a huge market. And that just goes to show the importance of really making sure that we have women on the other side of the investment table. So before we bring up our next panel, which I'm very excited to host, I wanted to just drop in the chat for those of you that are asking, this is incredible. We love being with you virtual. When is the next big summit? The next big summit is May 18th to 20th in New York City, baby. We are so excited to be doing a 3-day activation live in person. We want to see all of you there. And right in the chat, we just dropped your code to get 30% off your ticket. Ticket prices are going up next week, and this is the lowest rate of the year. So if you want to join, please grab your ticket now. Also, keep posting away, and we will be giving away tickets at the end of today's session. Everybody feeling good? Do I still got you all? Let's see it. We're amped up. So I am going to bring up our next panel that I will be hosting. We are doing our catch-up panel. Let's bring up all of our lovely founders who are our finalists from last year's VWS Pathfinder. Welcome, welcome, Enrica. I've got Keisha. Who else we got? We got you. All right, Shweta and Irina. Do we have Irina up yet? I think she'll join in a moment. Irina's got some funky internet going today in New Zealand, so hopefully she's able to hop on. How are you, ladies?
Good, good.
Hi, Jennifer. All good. I hope everyone is doing fine.
Yeah, thanks
Amazing.
for having me.
Amazing. Okay, so We are excited to have each of you today because these ladies were our finalists in last year's competition, and I'm really looking forward to hearing, how's this last year been since we saw you last October? What have some of the highlights been? How can we keep amping you up and supporting you as the VWS community? So perhaps we will get started with you, Enrica. How has the last 12 months been? And then we'll go to you, Shweta.
Thank you. So it's been quite a ride because we launched finally in February, so after a few months, our first collection of fabrics and samples. So for us, it was really all about putting our new materials on the market and focusing on analyzing the process and trying to improve the sustainability. Of course, what's going on in Europe has taken a little bit of, heavy weight on what we're doing. But just being part of this community for us, it's extremely meaningful. So yeah, it's right now, if you follow our social, you will see a lot of these new materials coming up. So we encourage the designers to reach out and get in touch for samples.
Awesome. And Enrica, could you just real quickly share your company name? So everybody, please share just a little bit about what you're doing and then some of the highlights.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So I'm from Orange Fiber. So our company creates materials for fashion from citrus juice byproducts. So when we were finalists last year, we had just announced the partnership with Lansing to make the first tencel fiber containing citrus byproducts. And yeah, that's our focus. So since then, I would say that the main highlight was really being on the market and receiving the feedback on the new materials by the brands.
Amazing. Shweta, how are things going with you, or where are you joining from today as well?
Hi everyone. I'm Shweta Khandelwal. I'm joining from India. I'm the co-founder of Alt Foods. Alt Foods is a 100% plant-based FMCG brand, and we have created a plant-based milk out of sprouted millets and grains, one of the world's first. And just to give you like a bit of an update what's been happening since last year. So actually VWS was a great time for us because just 1 month after VWS we launched, so we had a good boost to our launch, like like a pre-launch activity sort of thing, and we got like a lot of coverage because of that. So that was really great. And I would say that we have been really blessed. For the past 11 months, we have had a good share, a very good share of success. We are available at some of the largest coffee chains in India, so we're very happy with that, and a good share of happy customers, which we're very happy with. And we're also launching our new product in by the end of next month, which we're very excited for. So yeah, and just been a lot happening, since the last year for Alt Foods.
Amazing. Okay, so Irina, we've got you here. How are you? Tell everybody
I'm
where you're
great.
joining from.
So I'm joining from Auckland, New Zealand, and probably not going to be going to be very similar to previous speakers. Been a huge year. So VWS was the time when we kind of got out of stealth mode, and this was basically it. This was almost like a defining moment. It was, I think for me personally, it was really important because it really just it was such a great place to start with this sort of community of people who support you with it gave me a huge boost personally. I'm a co-founder of Daisy Lab, a company that uses precision fermentation to produce dairy identical proteins, and we are positioned in the heartland of dairy. If people don't know that, New Zealand is the largest dairy exporter despite being very small. Right off the back of the forum, we actually got our first check. We got our first funding, and then after that, we closed our angel round, and things have just been really kind of happening since then. So we made huge progress in our lab research, and so from the commercial perspective, it's been really, really a great year for us. But from the vegan impact, I think it was probably one of the biggest years of my life, because I feel super excited about just how many conversations we managed to have here in New Zealand, with everyone, not just people who are vegan or won't necessarily save animals, but everyone here acutely understands the importance of well, actually, reducing our impact on the land, reducing our dairy herds, and all of that. So that's been super exciting. The industry has started to sort of to turn around. They may not change the ways just yet, but they certainly are engaging, and they are getting sort of really excited. We've got engineering companies that are based here in New Zealand that used to build plants for our big dairy, reaching out to us saying, well, that's really cool. We're thinking about this. What can we do for you guys? What's the future looks like for you, so we can help you in the future? Yeah, that's been an amazing year, and it all started
That is
here.
it. just a few things, huh? And for folks that are joining from Australia and New Zealand, it is a tough market over there. That's an animal egg heavy industry, if I ever did see one. Keisha, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Let's see. Just background. I am Keisha Stickland. I'm co-founder and CEO of the Mushroom Meat Company. We transform mushrooms and upcycle plant proteins into mushroom-based meats and whole food ingredients with unbelievably meaty textures and delicious meaty flavors. And so the last year has been completely nuts, especially since we were, in stealth mode and probably the earliest company, in the group, and just had a couple of prototypes when we pitched. And since then, in December, actually after pitching, we were accepted into Big Idea Ventures' 5th accelerator cohort, and took our first investment. And then at Demo Day, we did the first public tastings of 2 of our product prototypes. And we completed that program in June. And in August, we were selected for a World Plant-Based Award in 3 different categories. So Best Plant-Based Protein, and Best Plant-Based Sustainability, and Best Meat Alternative. And then in September, we won the award for Best Meat Alternative at Plant-Based World Expo 2022 for our mushroom-based pulled pork prototype. And so now we're conducting tastings with chefs of our pulled pork and shredded beef alternatives, and also raising a pre-seed round to expand our team and finally move from R&D into pilot with a couple of food service partners. And then we've got a couple of kind of big events coming up. I'll be speaking at the Fermentation Enabled Alternative Protein Summit in San Francisco in January. And we're going to be a featured startup at Future Food Tech in San Francisco in March. So a lot of stuff.
Wow, y'all really are a bunch of underachievers. Seems like everybody has just had a crazy year. I'm curious, maybe Enrique, we'll go back to you. We'll kind of go through the circuit again. What do you think the next 12 months are going to look like? What do you think are going to be some of the biggest challenges?
Well, I think we are doing the math right now, because for us, the next big challenge is scaling, keeping in mind the fact that we want to push our circular model. And so we don't want to pursue a linear model where we have just to produce more at a lower price for garments that are meant to be disposed after just a few use. So trying to get investors on board in this vision of the future, and in a general landscape where retail is fearing the recession, will be somehow quite a challenge. So we need to attract investors, and we need to find a balance between producing and having a stock, but also really stay on the market. So for us, I would say the biggest challenge will be funding and really demonstrate our KPIs in terms of sales expectations.
Yeah. Shweta, what do you think?
So I would kind of echo with what Enrica has said, like scalability is a challenge for startups, and this is something we really have to move in, especially with us, because our goal is to, be an affordable plant-based brand. So although currently we still are affordable in comparison to other plant-based alternatives, there's still like a huge gap between the price of dairy milk, and also, the price of a plant-based milk. So that is one part. And the second thing is that in the past, like, for the past 11 months, we have tested the waters, we have dipped our toes, and, we have experimented. But now it's time for us to really, press the accelerator button. Like, we really need to expand a lot more, and we need to move quicker and faster. That includes also, increasing our basket size. So, and, building our brand. So a lot of challenges come over here, but I think it's also fun. This time for growth is the time where you have the most fun, and it's hard work, but you see your brand grow.
Absolutely. Irina, what are you thinking?
So we're raising our seed round at the moment. I would really like to that be raised and closed, and then we've got one of our proteins that's ready for scale up. It doesn't mean it's not quite the scale up that those guys are going through, so we're not ready to be putting it on the shelves yet to sort of scale up to kind of kilogram production. But what it can allow us to do is we have an agricultural fair at about sort of our spring, October, November next year. So that's my dream, to show up there with a bucket of ice cream made using precision fermentation, and have all the farmers taste it. So people have different dreams. This is mine for next year.
Okay. Keisha, what about you?
Let's see. The next year is very similar. I feel like it's really all focused on scaling. So really closing our pre-seed is the first and foremost, and then of course it is moving from kind of this just barely above bench top level that we can kind of produce product at present, to being able to produce enough for 2 food service providers. So it's pilot, but we've got food service is our area of focus, and the volumes are pretty high. So just making sure that we actually have the ability to meet the demand even for those existing locations. Those first locations is going to be key for us. So we're kind of working through all of those logistics right now, and really understanding what's required in terms of equipment, et cetera, because we have a process that is kind of not. It's very different from like mycelium-based fungi companies, but it's also very different from the typical plant-based companies, and so it definitely requires that we have unique equipment and so on. So our focus is really going to be just on scaling and getting those first products to market.
So we got a lot of scaling happening. A lot of scaling. Blitz. So I would love I'm going to open this one to the floor. Whoever wants to take it. I'd love for you to share probably your biggest lesson that you've learned so far as an early founder. We have a lot of people joining today that are also early founders, or people that are trying to figure out, is being a founder for me? So I will open that to whoever wants to take it.
I'll start. And is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is actually some advice that somebody else gave me that I'm actually still trying to learn how to incorporate myself. But it's really the fact that you don't have to follow the script. And there's a few ways you can look at that. For me, it means you don't have to be a 29-year-old PhD out of Stanford to be credible in your space. Sometimes the best ideas come from people outside the industry, and they come from people starting second and third careers. And you don't have to raise money in the standard way and from all the usual suspects. You can chart your own path that's uniquely you and that works for you and your business. That's what I'm learning.
Yeah. Irina?
That's definitely true, and I'm actually building on that. I'm surprised by the variety of people you meet that come from all sorts of different backgrounds. I want to build on something I heard previous speakers mention, is impact from day one. That really helps me to sort of ground, because it can get quite overwhelming, particularly with the deep technology, when you have to go for very long and you don't know if you're going to be successful in the end or not, something that really helps kind of bring it back and ground myself is just like, well, we already making impact today. We are making impact by employing good people. We're making impact by having the right conversations, and that brings satisfaction. And then brings it. It doesn't matter what comes next. Today we're successful because we're doing those things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Shweta, Irina, or Shweta and Enrica?
I'll just share something which it's actually one of the few things what I've learned in the past few months. Is that as founders, we're very passionate about what we do, and we sometimes like something kind of similar to what Keisha has also said. There might be a certain way we would want, a certain thing to work because we have been in R&D for quite some time, but it's really important for us to stay open-minded and to build a team. Like we can do everything on our own, and this was an issue for me as a founder when I first started, because I was so passionate about this, like let me do everything, but this is not how a business works. Like you really have to build your team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I will definitely jump on that because that's where we are right now. So finding the compromise between budget and like the team you want to build is quite relevant. So one thing that I would definitely stress, and particularly for like European fellows out there, is not underestimate the investment in people and in building the team together with machineries, because we tend to not underpay but assume that people will work for passion as we do. However, this is not always the case. So, and we need professionals and people who are better than us to make things going and improve our vision and our company. So I think apart from the founding teams, really start thinking at your company as you want to see it in 5 years, with the role, like the key roles in place, with the right salary to actually have the best people in the market, and not like the one that you think you can afford.
That is an excellent piece of advice, Enrica, and I think we actually haven't talked about this enough today. There's a huge discrepancy too, even just with like women professionals. We tend to be more mission oriented. Women are 8 times more likely to start a company for mission versus men. It's just the way that we are. And we also need to make sure that we know our worth as well, and that we're not accepting salaries that are far beyond our worth just simply because we want to get into the space. It's so important that people continue to get paid what they really deserve. So anyone that's listening today, like I really hope you take that feedback back. I can see I got a lot of clapping happening there. So as our last wrap up question, in the 30 seconds or less, we've got a little bit of time. Let's maybe do 20 seconds. We'll start with you, Keisha, and then we'll do the reverse order with you, Irina. How can the VWS community help you today?
Wow, that's a great one, and one that actually stumps me, because the place that we're at, I feel like is so, we're so heads down, but I feel like the other thing that we miss a lot of times is, how people feel about what we're doing and the products that we're launching. So I feel like, it's probably more incumbent on us to figure out how to better use the community the other way around, because I feel like what we really need to do more of is get out there and talk to people a little bit more than we have, and get the feedback from the community. We've started doing tastings, for example, but I feel like there's a lot more that we can do in terms of talking about our mission and why we're doing what we're doing. So I feel like it's us trying to learn how to better use the community.
Excellent.
I think Keisha summarized it quite well. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. You guys are great.
Okay, and Shweta, real fast, what can we do?
I really echo with what Keisha and Irina has said. Like, you have a fantastic platform, and we're very happy to have it. It's really up to us to use it better and to connect with everyone in the community.
Okay, and Enrica, anything we can do for you?
Well, I think just let us know your suggestion and how, like, what you think you can do for us, because I think we are so much into things that sometimes we are not even able to like imagine the power of such a community.
Amazing. All right. Well, ladies, you guys are building the future of the world and making it a healthier planet, a kinder planet for us all. So I will let you all get back to that. And we will welcome up our final chat of the day before we go to our pitch competition. So let's all say goodbye to everybody. How awesome are they? I hope everybody sticks around for the next few talks so we can engage in the comments and maybe figure out how we can support all of these amazing women founders. Our last chat before we go to our pitch competition is with last year's winner, Jessica. Let's welcome you up to the stage. Jessica and I, it's really funny when we email each other because we both have the same initials, JS.
I know, I always notice that, and for a second I'm confused.
How are you, lady?
Doing well, how are you?
I mean, we've got everybody up without a hitch today, so we're connecting women across probably a dozen countries or more, so all good here. Jessica, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience for those that didn't see your crowning moment last year? What are you working on?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jessica and I'm the CEO and one of the two co-founders of Sundial Foods. At Sundial, we're developing a novel manufacturing process for creating whole cuts of plant-based meat. And at the moment, that looks like vegan chicken wings complete with a crispy skin. So we're actually selling these in a couple of restaurants. For anyone based in San Francisco or LA, you can find them.
And she's not kidding when she says a crispy skin. So Sundial was at the Vegan Women's Summit this year, and that wing station was just booming the entire day.
Even though it was 100 degrees outside, oh my goodness.
It was like the hottest day of the year, but it was April. Oh my God. You didn't even need the fryer. You could have just brought them and left them in the sun.
I know, put them on the pavement.
Seriously. So what has the last year been like for you?
It's been busy. I think that last year Pathfinder was right at the close of our Series C. So we ended up closing a 4 million fundraise shortly after that. Since then, really the focus has been on building our first ever pilot line for the Sundial process, where we're kind of trying to engineer these different, what we call upstream tissue types, focusing on this protein lipid film to act as a crispy skin, but then also replacing the normal meat texture you have in a plant meat alternative. We're using a different process for creating that kind of muscle texture. And so we built our first pilot line, got it up and running, and started selling product for the first time this spring. And so that's been a huge learning experience. We're in a couple restaurants, always testing, continuing to iterate and hopefully get better.
Okay, you got to plug the restaurants. Tell people where they can get it first off. You said LA and SF?
Yeah, so if you're in San Francisco and you like wings and beer, well, this is the Vegan Women's Summit, so maybe not, but it's at Foghorn Tap Room near Golden Gate Park. And then for a more vegan-friendly experience, also Manny's in the Mission. Personally love that place. It's like a Mediterranean cafe. Sit down, order Sundial wings. And then in LA, you can go to Future Food, which I'm sorry, people from LA, it's actually in Lancaster, so I should be more accurate.
Ooh, you just tried to say that SoCal was LA. Uh-oh.
Apologies.
The Angelinos are going to be on attack. It's like somebody's like, yeah, I'm going to SF. And I'm like, oh, where are you going? They're like, oh, Sunnyvale. I'm like, what?
Dublin, Pleasanton.
Yeah, seriously. That's awesome. So what makes you obviously have the skin. What do you think makes your product unique? I know certainly from the label perspective, that's quite unique in itself.
Yeah, so really the idea is that, a really interesting statistic that actually surprised me is if you look at American meat consumption habits, according to the USDA, only about 22% of the meat that Americans eat is considered comminuted, ground, or processed meat, like chicken nuggets, burger patties. But most plant-based products on the market right now are chicken nuggets or burger patties. And a lot of that is due to processing limitations, the way that these products are normally made right now, generally extrusion. There's only really an ability to create those kinds of ground meat products. And so the other 80% of meat that Americans are expecting or used to eating, we're not really addressing that yet. And the idea at Sundial for the past 3 years or so has been to develop a process that will allow us to really replicate the complexity of texture that people are looking for. In chicken, especially in chicken wings, a lot of that has to do with the crispy skin, but also within the meat itself, being able to create these different muscle bundles and layers that as someone eats and they're biting through the product, they have this heterogeneity and interesting experience. And then really the other aspect of that is also trying to keep the label as clean as possible because people do also eat meat for nutrition. And so having a similar protein content, trying to cut back on saturated fat and cholesterol, that's really important to us.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of is the name of the game. That's what we've all been talking about this entire morning, really, is that nutrition, that P word, the processing. What's your take on the plant-based meats are too processed rhetoric we're seeing everywhere?
That's really interesting. I have mixed feelings, to be honest. I think maybe plant-based meats sometimes are too processed. There are simpler ways to do some things. Ingredients that we should probably be trying to cut out. I think it's great that there's so much R&D in this space, so many new companies and so many new ideas around how we can maybe simplify ingredient labels, get rid of some processing agents, also just decrease the level of processing, because as we do that, it's not just about making the product healthier or better, but it's also more energy efficient, environmentally friendly, so it's not a bad thing.
I like that's an interesting question. You say it as if you didn't have the most like thorough answer planned. You must be putting. I mean, it's the number one question we're getting right now, and so I'm curious. Like going into a pretty big moment for the company. Like, are you seeing any decline in interest from investors and consumers because it's a plant-based meat? Are you getting any effects of that?
Any other founders on the line who are currently fundraising are probably also getting very used to the question. So now that Beyond Meat is failing, what are you going to do? Which is kind of something that you have to navigate around. But I think, there was really this honeymoon period for plant-based meats, which is great. And I love that people, especially consumers, are getting more interested in these products. I don't think that, especially from a consumer perspective, has declined. But there's a level of expectation that we have to deliver, especially on price point and accessibility, and really, really on nutrition. That all of these things underlying, of course, taste being the top driver, we do have to keep working on them, and that's why we're here.
So it's so funny. I literally just grabbed my phone. Let's see if we can. I'm gonna have to share it in the chat. So I was pulling up. This is Snapchat's year to date. So Snapchat is down 81%, down to $9 a share. Beyond Meat is only down 77%, down to $14 a share. Meta is down 74%. And for some reason, we don't see any sort of social media's dead posts. All we hear about is Beyond Meat's dead. It seems like there's actually like an effort to specifically attack our industry, and yet we ignore all of the other stock tickers and them going through the exact same thing or worse. What do you think?
I love that. That's great. And thank you for pointing that out.
I'm here to collect the data. So you said you've been doing this for 3 years. Can you tell folks, how have you been doing this for 3 years? When did you start the company?
So we started the company 2019. I met my co-founder Suwan in a class at UC Berkeley. So I was a sophomore undergrad studying molecular and cell biology and really hoping to go to med school one day, which has not happened yet, but it doesn't mean it won't. And my co-founder was finishing up a PhD in plant and microbial biology. So she's now our CTO. She had more than 10 years of experience in research, actually starting in a lab when she was 16, which is completely insane. And so, yeah, it's been 3 years of going through trying to balance classes and the startup very quickly becoming full-time and classes becoming kind of a part-time thing. And then ultimately we both graduated and we're still here.
So you graduated with your bachelor's while doing the
last year, yeah.
So you were literally, you must have been 20 when you started?
19.
19. Like, seriously, everybody, 19 years old, venture-backed company that's doing something that companies with over $1 billion of fundraising haven't done. So what do you think is what's the secret? What's the secret to the success?
Oh man, my co-founder. She's brilliant and I'm just following along. But I think that, I don't know, we've been so lucky that we've been able to ask for help from so many people and so many groups and just continue to learn along the way. And there's been a lot of support for, I think, this movement in general, but also for us. And so we're very grateful for that.
So we have a lot of professionals that are joining today trying to figure out, should they be a founder? But in particular, I see a lot of students that are in the audience today. What would your advice to them be if they're thinking like, can I do what Jessica's doing? How do you think they should go about that decision process?
I think don't be afraid to ask questions to people who have done it before, and don't be afraid to also, if you're a student in university right now, to ask your professors if they've had similar experiences or if your school has some kind of network or resources you can reach out to. We definitely started by relying a lot on UC Berkeley and them kind of guiding us through, okay, here's a legal program through our law school if you want to learn how to found a startup and things like this. So it was a lot of just asking questions at the beginning and starting to slowly be guided in the right direction, but also want to volunteer that if you want to ask me, then I'm very happy to talk to anyone who's a student thinking about starting a company.
Okay, well, I think we dropped your LinkedIn in there, but I expect you're going to have like a very full DMs after today's conversation. And just as a reminder, folks, if you scroll over our names as we're speaking, you can connect with us directly that way as well. So is there any schools that you would recommend that are like the best for food tech and plant-based, by the way? I get that question a lot.
So GFI has a really great database, I think, for schools that have like alt protein networks. UC Berkeley, I'm obviously very biased, but we do have this kind of alternative program course that's become larger. There's a lab attached. There's a couple of different classes you can take, and you can get involved in research through the university. So I love that. I also would say that Rutgers University has a really great food science program attached to it.
Awesome. So as we wrap up today's chat, the question that I keep asking everybody, and I think you will have some really good insight because you're still really building it. What do you wish you knew 3 years ago that you know now?
There would be a lot of reading of legal documents involved in this.
Yep.
And to really pay attention to taxes. I think that's what I wish I knew.
Oh my gosh, taxes, yes. I remember we did a really great conversation with Pinky Cole last year, and I was like, what's your number one piece of advice for founders? And she's like, you get yourself a damn good lawyer and accountant from day one.
100%. I have to agree with that. That's true.
Yeah. Awesome. So what's next? What do the next year or few years look like for you?
So we're headed out of the pilot phase right now and into full-scale manufacturing. We've identified our manufacturing partner and are actually doing our first commercial runs next week. So if that goes well, then we are on track to continue expanding Sundial through food service throughout the next year, starting in California, and then hopefully moving beyond that pretty soon. We are actually opening a Series A right now, so getting back into fundraising mode as well to help build this.
And how is the fundraise this time around changed from last time? I mean, you mentioned that people are all asking you about Beyond. Do you think that there's going to be smaller rounds in the next kind of 6 to 18 months or so?
Maybe, but I think it's not a bad thing because we're being very careful about what we know we need for the next couple of years and what the next milestones are. And I think everybody's starting to think this way of, focusing on sustainably building a business and fundraising in a way that's reasonable is probably a good mentality.
And if folks are there's a lot of investors that joined today's conversation as well. If you are looking to invest in the space, like what would you recommend that they look for in a company? And like maybe what is a red flag to you?
Oh, that is a good question. Not being an investor myself, I don't want to say anything bad, but I would say like differentiation. I would hope to see, as a consumer more than anything, really a stronger focus on nutrition, on alternatives to extrusion that have a viable path to scale and aren't just question marks at this point. And I think reasonable valuations.
And what would be a red flag?
Probably just a pure branding play.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest, of the conversations that I've had, especially with VCs in recent months and weeks, the amount of Me Too brands that have kind of, Me Too meaning Me Too plant-based brands that have popped up, it just seems crazy. All of a sudden there's just like a plant-based meat everywhere, but are they even doing anything different? Are they doing anything novel, right?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting the next couple of years to see if some of those also end up merging or end up under like stronger parent brands and how many there will be in a couple of years.
Oh, 100%. These next 6 to 18 months there's going to be a lot of deaths in plant-based. There's going to be a lot of deaths in all kinds of industries. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in crypto right now. Oh boy, that is a crypto winter coming. But I think it's important for people to understand, though, too, this is on par with how industry growth goes. This is what the S-curve of innovation looks like. So there will be brands that go out of business. There will be brands that merge. There'll be brands that are bought. I was at an investor conference actually a week ago, and they said every single major Fortune 500 has a VC arm, and many of them are all looking at food brands now.
So on a bright note, there are a lot of really cool things that are probably coming out, and I'm excited to see those as well.
Yeah. What's your exit dream? Where do you want to be?
Our dream is really to continue building Sundial and to be a leader in this whole cut space, delivering the taste and texture and really the whole experience consumers are looking for, and also the nutrition. So keep going with
Awesome.
Sundial.
Yeah. All right. So I've been very fortunate to try Sundial. So hopefully everybody that's joining today gets a chance to try it in the near future or at the Vegan Women's Summit in New York in May.
Yes, we'll
Tell
be
us
there.
in the meantime. Yeah. In the meantime, what can the VWS community do to help you?
A lot of things. I don't want to come with a list. I feel like that's terrible. So we are raising Series A. If anyone's curious to learn more about that, please reach out to me. But we're also hiring. We have now reached this phase where we understand where manufacturing and volume is going. So we're looking to build a sales and marketing team to match that. If you're curious about joining Sundial, please let me know.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jessica, we are going to move on to the pitch competition for this year. And I hope you have a chance to watch and see who's crowned this year's finalist and winner.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. Thanks so much.
Cool. We'll see you. Thank you. All right, everybody. Are you ready for the pitch competition? All right. This is our final segment of today. And I am so thrilled to bring up our investor jury. So let's bring each of them on stage. We've got women that are joining from literally all over. Okay, I see you popping up. Okay, who are we missing? We got one more. We got you, Rabinder. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Doing well.
How has the morning been so far? Okay, awesome. So I'm very excited to have our VC jury that is joining us for today's pitch competition. I'm going to go through a brief round of introductions with everybody, and then we will explain how the pitch competition is going to work. So first off, I can see in my top left corner, we have Heather Courtney that is joining as the founding general partner of Allwing Capital. Heather, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Where are you joining from?
I'm in Miami right now in a WeWork space, so hopefully it won't be too loud.
I love the diversity of geographies that we've had today. Awesome. Stephanie Dorsey, also founding partner of E2J2J. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back this year.
Awesome. What are you looking forward to?
Just new innovations. I mean, this is the stuff that wakes me up in the morning, so really excited.
And where are you joining from?
New Orleans, as you can see in the background here.
New Orleans, I love it. And Manan, how are you?
I'm very well. Looking forward to the pitch competition.
How's you got evening for us?
Yeah, it's already evening, half past 8 actually.
8, okay. And are you in Berlin right now?
Yes. Yes,
okay.
in Berlin.
We have a committed jury because they joined from all hours just to watch our finalists pitch. And we've got, let me see, and Caroline, I've got you in the corner. Welcome, Caroline. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
I mean, we've had dozens of women join us from dozens of countries today, all completely kicking ass, doing something cool. How are you? Like, how's it? Are you in London right now?
I'm in London right now. I'm doing great. You might see me pop in, but that's the middle of holidays, so I apologize for that. But couldn't visit and managed to get the tech going, so looking forward to it.
We've got good connections. That's all that matters. I mean, Elaine already had her dog, so I think like visitors at Pathfinder is A-okay. And lastly, Ravinder, how are you?
Yeah, good. Very excited. Looking forward to this. This is my first one, so really keen to get going and seeing what we've got today.
Awesome. And where are you joining from?
I'm joining from York in the UK, so I think it's about 7:30 here.
Okay, so we have a very dedicated European contingent that's joined. We appreciate you all joining us into your evening. We try our best to do the time zones, and we think this is like the best time slot we've figured out yet. So hopefully we've got a great competition this year. So we are going to go into the pitch competition rules, and then we will get started with our first pitch. So we are going to hear from 5 finalists today, and they are all going to be pitching live with their deck up in front of our jury. Each finalist is going to get 15 minutes total on stage, and they can use that 15 minutes however they like, but we recommend no more than 5 minutes with their deck up and probably about 10 minutes of Q&A. I'm sure with many of our jury members up there, all 5 of them, there's a lot of questions to be asked, so it's really important that we have lots of time for Q&A. When you are done, finalists, let us know when your deck is at the end. We'll pull it down for you, and then you will go into your Q&A with all of the different jury members. You will see 15 minutes up in the corner, and when we say 15, guess what? We mean 15. So if you see me starting to hover into the corner and hop on the screen, that means we are done, and we will be going to the next finalist. Everybody excited? How's that sound, everyone? I think we've got, so Caroline, you've been here every year. Stephanie, you were here last year. Renan, you were here as a speaker when you were at Karodia still. And Rabinda and Heather, you are our newbies. So hopefully we keep everybody on time and keep it tight. And with that being said, we have our very first pitcher welcoming up to the stage. So let's welcome Tasneem Karodia, who will be joining us all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. Let's welcome her up to the stage. Make sure she gets on. Oh, we've got you. So perfect. I will disappear for the next 15. We'll bring the deck up and let's get started.
Amazing. So I'm Tasneem Karodia, co-founder and COO at Mzansi. We're building scalable technology to bring cultivated meat to the market. I'm really excited to share more about our progress and our journey so far. So I think the audience today knows a lot about the problem, but I'd love to talk a little bit about kind of an additional problem that the industry experiences. So I think at the moment, cultivated meat is not at a stage where it's ready to be a commodity item. And what we're trying to work on is scalable technology that gets us there faster and in a cost-effective way, so more people have access to cultivated meat. I'm from South Africa, so it's really important that we also look at what this means for Africa and the growing population. In not too distant future, there'll be another 1 billion extra people in Africa. And really our aim is to be able to provide more protein that's accessible to people in Africa, but also across the world. This is the Mzansi burger, and I'm really excited to say that I was able to try this in April, and we're working towards getting more people and eventually some of you judges to be able to eat this. I'm also really excited to say that it tastes like meat. It's got the same mouthfeel and the same aroma, which I'm really excited for more people to try. In terms of our process, we've got a biobank of 300 samples from 3 different species. Our media cost, we're working towards $1 per liter within the next 6 to 12 months. On our bioprocessing side, we've got custom-built bioreactors and in-house design, which allows us to iterate faster and really optimize much quicker. And in terms of the burger, well, you've seen the picture, but again, a lot of people have praised the taste, which I'm really excited about. In terms of the Mzansi solution, it really is about getting our costs down so more people are able to access this. So we've been able to get infrastructure costs to 25% of global competitors, and our equipment is down to 50% of those seen elsewhere. So it allows us to scale faster and more economically. In order to bring this tech global, we're looking at 2 options, and one of them is a B2C play in South Africa, really taking burgers to the market, and then being able to take our technology globally is through licensing. And we're currently in conversations with a few players that would be able to take this, one, license our cell lines, but also some of our end-to-end processes that allow you to optimize in bioreactors and then get them to market faster. We went from biopsy to tasting in just 18 months, and we're really excited that within the next couple of months that we hope to commercialize as well. I don't really have to focus too much on this, but our process is a 3-week process versus 18 months that it takes to rear cow to slaughter. So it means less energy, less greenhouse gases, and lower land usage. We've got an incredible team that backs me. My co-founder, Brett, has extensive experience in alternative proteins and food marketing. We've got an incredible R&D team who's got extensive experience across bioprocessing and tissue culture. And then rounding out our team, a lot of people with food experience. So Abzi, our head of taste, who's actually a daughter of a cattle farmer, knows exactly what we need to be able to take this to consumers. In terms of where we are now, we're between R&D and pilot. We're really starting to optimize our current capacity of 100 liters. And going forward, we'll move into a demo phase where we're able to go from a couple of kilograms per month to tons per month and really start to get to price parity within the next few years. In terms of what we're raising 500,000 to allow us 12 months runway and to be able to get a world first of selling cultivated beef burger. We're optimizing our cell lines to really scale them up and enable the B2B play, and then working towards being ready for a pilot production plant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's great. That's great to see that that's been going on. Can I just ask, you mentioned like obviously focus on scalability and bringing the cost down, etc., which is fantastic to see. Why do you think you're demonstrably, or what are the unique characteristics which make your proposition more scalable or more affordable than your competitors?
I think there's a few things. I think one, being based in South Africa and being regionally isolated from other regions has made our team have to be more nimble. What we've been able to do in 18 months, some people have taken a few years. And so I think the team has worked under conditions that allow us to accelerate. I think there isn't as much red tape as you would see in Europe. So I think up until about 2 months ago, you weren't able to taste. We were able to do that without any issues. And so it allows us to iterate much faster. And then we've also always had scalability in mind. So we hired bioprocessing staff much early on, which enabled us to really think about scale and moving that forward, whereas other people didn't necessarily focus on that in the beginning.
And so you're talking about the team and like being flexible and agile, etc., etc. Is there anything in your process, in the production, in the product itself, or in the input itself that's coming out that you think is different?
Yes, so we've got proprietary processes, and our cell lines are more efficient than other cell lines that we've tested. So we've got 30% faster doubling times, which allow us to also increase our efficiency on end product and what we produce. In terms of other factors that allow us to be quicker, we're localizing our production, and so it allows us to keep our cost base low, but also iterate much quicker on the ground. So it's a few things, building partnerships here, but also the talent in our team to be able to execute on those elements.
Can I just ask a follow-up then, kind of focused on how you said that you're differentiated by thinking about scale early on? Am I correct in seeing the slide that you're at a one liter bioreactor right now? Is that right?
We're at 100 liters, and we're moving to 200 liters in the next 2 to 3 months. And then our next raise, not the raise that we're doing now, would be to get a pilot production of 3,500 liters to 10,000 liters, but we're at 100 liters at the moment.
So can you talk just a little bit about how you're focused on scale in a differentiated way from some of the other players in the space?
I think a lot of the other players who started a couple of years ago have had to buy or have bought off the shelf bioreactors. Ours are customized and in-house built. A lot of our components are 3D printed, so we're able to iterate. And so it allows us to move faster when we know certain elements of the process to really get greater efficiencies. So I think one element about relying on off the shelf is that, one, it's not customized for cultivated beet, it's for pharmaceutical grade or medical grade. And so it doesn't actually allow you to move as quickly. And I think the other thing is that a lot of these bioreactors actually have 40-week lead times. So a lot of your processes have changed by the time you actually get the unit. And components and all those things also have longer lead times. So being able to make components and produce in-house allows us to iterate much quicker.
And so you're building in-house, and are you able to build, you've obviously built a 100-liter bioreactor. Are you able to build 10,000 liter, 50,000 liter as well? Or is that something that you're going to have to design and then farm out the manufacturing?
So we're working with engineering partners to work out the best way to do the bigger ones at scale. But in South Africa, we've got incredible engineering capabilities. And so we've already looked and scoped out what it could look like to build these here.
Okay.
I have also a question concerning the cost point, because it seems to be your main differentiator. In my understanding is in cell cultivation, the main drivers is really scaffolding and the media. So how are you compared to competitors on these 2 points?
On media, I think we've reduced our media by 50% from when we started, and we're now working towards $1 per liter, which is significantly lower than most industry players. And I think one of the main reasons is that we looked at localized production and other innovative ways to bring media costs down. The biggest one is replacing some of the growth factors within media. So we're working on that, and we're testing one that's actually at $1 per liter at the moment. So we should be able to replace that quite soon. And I think some people have already gotten their media costs down, but I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. Even some of the media players that are focused exclusively on media haven't been able to do full replacements of media. And so there's still a lot of time before a lot of those get their price down. So I think that's one element around the media.
Tasneem, thank you so much for your presentation. And just wondering, 2 questions really. One, for product development, are you all thinking about various different species, or are you focused particularly on beef? And then second, you mentioned that you were doing B2C, so just wondering if you could speak more to your sales and distribution strategy as well.
So in terms of species, our main focus is bovine, and our first products will be processed products like burgers and sausages. But we have got a pork cell line and a lamb cell line, and we are looking at other species. But I think it is a first point of focus for a first initial product, but the others are happening in R&D as we go. And then in terms of our B2C strategy, we're working and spoken to a lot of food producers and retailers as well as food service providers. And so we've got a good relationship with one of the biggest burger companies that have 600 stores in South Africa and have distribution internationally. So we are looking at what the best avenue is. At this scale, we obviously can't provide them with enough product, but we are working on ways to start testing with consumers and work with that relationship until we can get scale.
So obviously there are a lot of discussions or market chatter around like plant-based meat, alternative meat, cell-based meat, what's going to be the replacement that's going to help. What's your perspective, and where do you think the market's going?
I think there's not one answer. I think that plant-based has a role, and I think there's a lot of people that won't eat cultivated meat that are plant-based. I think we're, as people that are focused on cultivated meat, we're trying to target consumers who are not yet convinced by plant-based and still want to eat meat, so the conscious consumer who's still eating meat. And I think you need multiple solutions to get more people over the line. I do think that I love plant-based and eat it a lot, but there's a lot of people that won't eat it at all. And that may change over time, but I think it's easier to convince people to eat meat or something that is closer to meat and taste and is closer from a taste perspective to meat. And so I think you just get more people over the line by having multiple solutions.
Can you talk just a little bit about the burger product? Was that a hybrid product you said you tasted?
Yes, it is.
Can you give us any more details about the sort of, the quantity of cultivated cells that were in that burger?
We tested quite a few options, but the ones that are tasting that other people tasted were at 52% cultivated biomass, and then the rest of it was plant-based.
That's really high. Wow, nice. And then from a consumables perspective, being positioned in South Africa, how do you see the supply chain? Are you sourcing media from other places or growth factors from other places? And do you think that gives you a geographical advantage or disadvantage?
I think we've had to look at both to just also limit and mitigate any risks against that. There is, I think, with any suppliers, and we've seen it with whether it be bioreactors or media or any of those things, there's lots of long lead times with certain elements, so we mitigate the risk by having multiple suppliers. What we have tried to do, especially because of our geographical location, is localize a lot of our production, so working on the most critical elements to bring in local suppliers where we can limit a lot more of the risk. And so we've managed to do that quite a bit, and so I don't see it as a big disadvantage for us.
Thanks.
Okay, so that wraps up our very first pitch. Congratulations, Tasneem. Let's give her a virtual round of applause. It is always hard to be the first, so amazing work. Are you guys all warmed up for our next pitch? We got lots to go. Okay. I'm curious, folks, as we're doing these pitches, is this the first pitch competition you've ever watched? Have you ever participated in one? I'd love to hear more about the audience and what your experience with pitch competitions is, because they are very tough. So these finalists have a lot of confidence being able to go up in front of everybody and pitch like this. So congratulations in advance to everybody. Our next pitcher is Verónica García Arteaga from Neggst. Let's bring you up. Okay, Veronica's here. Okay, I will say goodbye, 15 minutes, and we'll get your deck up. Take it away.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so I'm Verónica García. I'm co-founder and CTO of Neggst Foods, and we are a startup based in Berlin. And this is our product, a real plant-based egg that gives you the full experience of an old-fashioned hen egg with an egg yolk and an egg white, and we also have a biodegradable eggshell. And I can tell you the story about this product, and for that I will have to come to my childhood. I can tell you about that all my childhood favorite memories are around food and animals. And I grew up in Mexico, and I learned that eggs are really saving you time and money, and we have so many different recipes that we can prepare using eggs. And I also looked very lucky that my parents were really animal people, and we have several pets and injured animals pass by our place, and including some few chicks, and before finding them a new home. And I think this topic, Liron and Jennifer talked about it already before, but since we are kids, I think everyone knows how where the eggs are coming from, and but none of us really know or understand what this means for the hens and the chicks. And on the other hand, I was always really interested in food, and since I was 11, I wanted to have the curiosity how the food, the breakfast that I was eating was being made. And I decided I wanted to study something in food engineering, and then I did that. And during my studies, I learned how meat products are made, how processed food is produced, and that's when I decided to really cut meat. And coming to Germany, I came to study a master in nutrition, and that's when I learned more about the plant-based foods and the sustainability, animal welfare. And even though, even behind these products that animals are not literally killed, but we learn how the animals are handled. And it was a no-go for me, so I needed to do something further. And it was when I was doing my PhD at the Research Institute that I get to know how they were preparing some meat alternatives and dairy alternatives, but there was really nothing going on around the egg alternatives. There were some already in the USA, but there was nothing that I could buy it in Germany. So that's why I decided to start something on my own, or besides my PhD project that I had. And I started in 2019 with this project, and from the first prototype of the lab, we founded the company last year. And the idea behind this product was that I wanted to recreate a hen egg. That really to have this versatility of the hen egg, so you can recreate all the recipes that you would like to without compromising the taste, the functionality, and time when preparing. And like I said, I was really curious in food. I was really curious in nutrition and sustainability. So when I started developing this product, I was looking into the ingredients, that they were local, so I could find them really around Europe, but also would be available in other parts of in other countries. And I was looking, for example, that we had the right amount of proteins, the right amount of fibers, and also some omega-3 sources. During this development, we came out with 3 patents, one for the egg white, one for the egg yolk, and one for the eggshell. And we are protecting our ingredient combination, but also the process. And since last year to now, we learned so much about the product and how to bring this upscale from the lab to big productions. And we're also submitting another 2 PCTs in the next week. I also would like to say that in the last 2 weeks ago, we have a really successful production. 1.3 tons of our product were already made. We are doing right now all the final tests, the storage tests, the challenge tests, and some other finalizing some certifications that we need to have in order to go to retail. And also a very important part was that we wanted to have these nutritional values closer to the hen egg. And although we are not in a protein content as a hen egg yet, we are working on it, always trying to improve. So we're starting right now in Germany. We have our product in already 4 restaurants, and we are planning to expand, and we have the possibility to do it because we have a great partners. I also, like I said, we have the original product with an egg white and the egg yolk, but we wanted to start with something as soon as possible while we work on the process of the encapsulated egg, so put it all together. So we start right now with a mixed egg, and then next year we will focus completely on the final development of the processing for the egg white and egg yolk to put it all together, and we will start with some restaurants by the end of next year. And I started the development of the product, but I would not have come further without the amazing team that we have. We are 11 international people in our team, and we are really focusing in letting all the hens to retire soon. So I would say thank you so much for the time, and I'm really looking forward for your questions.
Hi Verónica, great to see you again. It's great to see that what you've done and how it has developed. So well done. Would be great to understand a little bit more about the product itself. Why do you think it's different? Like, or why is the product that you're currently launching totally pure, like the all-rounded like eggshell product? How is that different? But if you go like to where you are, why is that different, and how it's different to competitors? And also where you are in the development, affordability index, etc. So quite a few questions in the same.
Yeah, a long question. Yes, I can tell you the difference from the competitors. I think we heard already before Zero Egg, and there's other competitors in USA. I think they are really good. A category growing. This category is growing definitely. That what it makes us different is we have the 2 components. And I think there's just really few, I can name maybe just 3 companies that would have this product, but it's not exactly as ours. Ours can be really together. And these companies that have 2 components mainly are using it just for fried egg, while ours can really work for everything that you would like to do. We can do also, like I said, the fried egg, but the scrambled egg, we can also use it for baking. And I think this is also what what differentiates us the most from the other companies. And regarding I think the product development, like I said, so last year we founded a company with just a prototype from the lab, and last year we worked on bringing it first to pilot scale to see how it will behave in the process that it was developed in the lab and now in the production line. It took a little bit longer because we wanted to have, or the process that was patent was to ensure quality of ingredient, to have a really long shelf life. We have approximately 8 weeks. It still needs to be cooled down, so in the cool shelf, but we have a really good stability in the product. Did I miss something from your question, Caro?
No, I was going to follow on. Just one more, and then I let the other go. So the product that you're first launching, is it the combined product, or how you're looking at it?
Yes, definitely. The thing is, what it makes our product a little bit challenging to bring it faster to the market was that we needed to create this shell or this membrane around the egg yolk. So in order to have some revenues to improve or to accelerate our development of this technique that we are doing, we said that it was much better to bring with a product that we know it would work in the pilot and in the production line, and then we can start with that, and that's the product that we have in already a few restaurants. This is the product we're already talking with some retailers to have in here in Germany, and right now then we will work completely focusing on this membrane formation in automatic way, because we know we can do it. We have done it a really manual way, and we have now an option to do it automatically.
No, that sounds great. And the last point from my question, the affordability.
Sorry?
The price index. Where are
So we are aiming a little bit around the organic egg, so around 50 to 60 cents per egg. The good thing is that we are using available commercial ingredients. We're staying local, so we're trying, all our ingredients are sourced in Europe, and this also increasing a little bit more the price. But still it's not too expensive as to having some precision fermentation ingredients or a specific process. The process that we have, I could say that we're using really machinery that it already existed. Our partners are usually producing marmalade. So we're using this equipment. We just adapted the process to a specific parameters that we need for the product.
Can I ask you a question about the ingredients? How clean is the ingredient list and how long is it?
So I would say that 97% of our ingredients are really just the water, the pea protein, we have some faba bean, we have vegetables. I think that's one of the things that make us unique. We have some sweet potato, for example, and oil. Besides that, of course, we have some salt. We do have some methyl cellulose that is usually used in plant in alternative meats. But we already looking for some options to change this one. We have been doing some trials, and we're also really excited to some products that are coming out from new companies that are developing with precision fermentation these alternatives to methyl cellulose, that I think this will create a great impact in all the alternative plant-based food.
And a related question, so that's the ingredient list. So the nutritionals, so how do they compare to an egg?
So right now we're not as high in protein content compared to a hen egg. I would say we're around 7% of protein content, but we're always also looking to increase it to more or less simulate the same nutritional values. But we do have more fiber, for example. And when we compare the Nutri-Score that is done here in Europe, so we have a Nutri-Score of A compared to a Nutri-Score of B of a chicken hen, for a hen egg.
Okay.
For your commercialization strategy, do you plan to, I know you mentioned B2B and then also retail, are you planning to sort of do the launch and really give brand recognition through restaurants and then double down on retail, or are you working on sort of a simultaneous launch?
No, definitely. We started with restaurants and some restaurants, and we are starting in some hotels now as a part of the buffet. So we want that the people get to know us through them, because they are the best people to create new recipes, to show off how to show the people how they can do, to create this hype. We have also amazing chefs and influencers that are talking about our product and showing people in their social media how they can do it. And I think once we have that, then it would be much easier that when they go to when we do the launch, then already know the product, and then they can come to get one from themselves.
A somewhat related question, just thinking about scale up and your manufacturing process. You said that your partners currently are making marmalade, they're marmalade producers?
Yes.
And when you're thinking about scaling up your manufacturing and then being able to combine all three elements with the egg, the shell, the yolk, the white, is that something that plugs into existing manufacturing capabilities, or will you have to build your own line? What does that kind of look
definitely for putting all together, we need a dosing machine for example, for the egg white, and then to finalize the encapsulation process that put it inside the egg white. This is what it's right now in designing and in the planning. That's why it took us a little bit longer. But at least create also the preparing or producing the egg white and the egg yolk is exactly the same process as we are doing now for the mixed egg.
Okay, so that could be handled with a co-man for sure. And then potentially you just have to build a new piece of equipment in order to put it all together. Okay, thanks.
So the costs that you mentioned, are they based on the mixed product that you're bringing to market in terms
of... Yeah, definitely. We still need to define how well the end of the process will be to define the product, but we're hoping then as soon as we have a higher production, then of course the prices would go low, and then we will have some revenues already that we can somehow reinvest in our process.
All right, that gets Veronica's pitch to a close. Congratulations, Veronica. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much for joining. Amazing work. We had hundreds and hundreds of women that applied to this. Over 2,000 votes were cast in our voting round. So these are really the top of the top. I'm excited for our next contestant. Let's bring her up. Sofia, welcome up to the stage. Let's get you up here. All right, all right. We're waiting. Okay, let's see. Do we have Sofia? You guys see Sofia coming up? Okay. All right. There we go. We had like a little second. Cool. Now Sofia's up. I shall bid you adieu. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's great to be here today. I'm Sofia, the founder of Old Atlas. We are developing AI-powered food ingredients and solutions. So there is a problem. Cultivated meat is not scaling up at the pace we need. After almost a decade and billions invested, only 4% of the cultivated meat companies were able to achieve a pilot capacity, but none the industrial scale. So B2C cultivated meat companies are having major challenges in the different components to make cultivated meat. Cell lines are the key ingredient of this meat. However, no real innovation has been done here. So we are taking the cell lines as the main building block for product and also for technology development. Of the cell lines listed at the main directory in the field, only one is commercially available and none is industrially viable. So basically, among many other things, cell lines need to be genetically stable, needs to be highly proliferative. Basically, they are lacking batch-to-batch product consistency, and that is why we cannot produce the millions of kilograms that we need. So our solution is cell lines optimized for food, linked to our proprietary AI software platform. This allows for a faster turnaround for an efficient manufacturing. We are tackling our users' pain points by cutting down their R&D costs and times by offering our cell lines. Also, by developing a fast identification of cost-effective raw materials, reducing their cultivated medium costs. We are developing smart plugin devices to control cell health in their bioreactors. And also, we are taking into account consumer acceptance and legal aspects. So that is why our cell lines are non-genetically modified. So as a first product, we sell cells. We are starting with the bovine species and also how to use them by controlling and predicting stem cell behavior in vitro and at different scales. So this is how we are supporting the industrial production of cultivated meats. Well, this is to showcase a bit on what we have been progressing so far. So we develop bioinformatic tools. We have the omics and image module. With this, we have an increased control over cell proliferation, and also we can detect early cell death and cell spontaneous differentiation, which is basically something nobody wants to have in their culture conditions. As we have a platform technology, we are starting with phase 1 cultivated meat to have the first success cases and then move into the in vitro toxicology testing market. With our cell lines, we can reduce drug development costs and also, very importantly, animal testing. So the business model is B2B. We are going to have our first revenues with a fixed fee for the cell lines and the bioinformatic tools. And then by 2025, the model would be a subscription based on production volumes. So with our services, our users can reduce by 50% their costs. We are unique in the fact that we are delivering cell lines optimized for food, which are linked to a continuous learning platform. So we can help reach the production states faster than anyone else and also in a cost-effective way. So in less than a year, we have several investors and strategic partners on board. We are also partnering with cultivated meat B2C and B2B companies for pilot testing and also for co-development. We file a patent in the US, and also we have our bioinformatic tools ready. So with this amazing team, Women Lead, we are going to reach our vision. We have over 70 years of relevant combined experience in developing state-of-the-art stem cell lines to improve human health, in developing bioinformatic tools and software, for example, to find new gene functionalities, gene signatures, using big data, and also we pioneer the cultivated meat ecosystem in Latin America. So we are fundraising to conclude our first product and also expand the team and for an additional IP filing. Our vision is to enable and also to decentralize the production of sustainable food products. We are taking a systemic approach, pursuing a wider and a bigger impact. So hopefully that matters to you as much as it matters to us, and because we do believe this is the way to go. Winning this would be a huge validation for us and will help us to keep on working in improving people and animals' lives. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, maybe I just have a first question. Very, very interesting. Thank you very much. Can you tell us a little bit more in depth what exactly the AI technology can detect?
Yes, so for now we are starting, I show you the omics and image module. They will have a lot of packages going on there, but basically we can have an increased control over the cell culture. For example, by analyzing using next generation sequencing, we can get an in-depth know-how on cell behavior in vitro. So by using gene expression analysis and then detecting linking that to metabolic pathways, and ultimately to modulators, which is basically how you get to control the cell culture conditions. But it's all based on an in-depth understanding and systemic approach on cell behavior in vitro. Also, we developed the image module, so we are linking the morphology changes that the cell suffers with these pathways and the gene expression. So that is how we are controlling and the service we are providing. apart from the cell lines in itself, the starter material. And this will be, the prediction models will be based on having, you see, artificial intelligence and machine learning would be as good as the predictions, would be as good as the information you are going to feed the platform with. So we are having this in vitro and in silico testing ongoing and continuously. We are sourcing our information with public available data, which is not the best, but also with our internal wet labs and our user information. So with all that is how we are going to gather big data, curate the information on a bioinformatic level, and make the predictions.
And are you all building your own AI platform and building your own models, training them, or are you using off-the-shelf models and then building upon that?
No, we are building our own models. So yeah, we are starting to apply the models to the image module, but there will be multiple modules in the different packages of the platform. And the good thing about the predictions is not that, I mean, we are relying on bioinformatic analysis, which is really great. Later on would be on more AI and predictive models, but as I mentioned, we need to be good on a bioinformatic level in order to have good predictions. So that is why we are not relying on just public available data. We are having our own wet lab. We manage the main building block of cultivated meat, which is the cell line. And also, so regarding the, sorry that, yes, so that is basically, yes,
when you
no,
say
just, yes, sorry. I think I'm having a back noise, but okay.
So you say that part of the information, so the publicly available information, fine, but then user information. So what's the user information? Which users do you reference there?
Yes, so we are constantly curating public available data because it's a lot. It's for example, it's not the best data you can get for this application in particular. There is a lot of information around the human species, for example. So with our analysis, another great thing we have is that we can jump getting information from the human, and we can relate it to, for example, the bovine species, because we do evolutionary analysis. So this is great because we get information that is public, and we can use it on our advantage in the different animal species. So that is one source of information. So, but we are not 100% a software company, because we know that public available data lacks accuracy. It's difficult to replicate. There are some challenges there. So we are also having our own wet lab. That is another source of information. We are going to design on a bioinformatic level our own experiments. And then the other block would be the information coming from the users. So basically what we do is we deliver the vial that you see, the cell line. They test them in their production system. They will upload the results onto our platform. And by results, I mean like images on their cell culture, media, analytics, RNA-seq, or whatever information they want. And then we are going to use that to optimize, to iterate on our product development.
And where are you on? Have you started doing that exercise with users, or the way that's third part of description of information? And if so, how you're finding it? Because obviously there would be. I mean, if I understand correctly, we're starting to touch some IPs and differentiation of product development potentially for the users in practice. So how free or how transparent said information would be, and whether it would be helpful to you or not.
I didn't follow the second part of the question. So the first part, yes, we signed several agreements with cultivated meat B2C and B2B partners in order to conduct the pilot testings by 2023. So what we have done so far is validating the results with stem cell biologists. so our image and omics module. So if we find regarding the gene expression analysis we have been conducting or the evolutionary analysis. The pilot testing for Q1 2023 with cultivated meat B2C companies. And the second question, sorry, but I didn't get it.
Yeah, it was more, given that part of the results of the sampling and testing would definitely go to how differentiated the product would be. I was wondering how transparent or how easy it was to agree what kind of information you would get back from users in terms of their own development to be really helpful to you.
So we are building the platform to be as flexible as possible. So, and that is also why we are having our in-house wet lab, and also why we are constantly curating public available data, because we need big data in order to develop our AI modules. We are not going to depend necessarily on the user's data, and we are allowing them to upload the information they feel comfortable in uploading. So a couple of images, as I mentioned, a couple of test results. So that is so we have like tackled that issue, that may be an issue for the user, maybe reticent to upload certain information, but ultimately of course it will be it's going to be confidential, and they are going to upload the information they want onto the platform. One thing to say is the more information they upload, the more customized the service we can do. So either with the cell line and also with the how to use them part. So our services are going to be more customized to them, and they will a kind of benefit of uploading more information rather than less, of course, because the predictions are going to be better.
Okay, thank you.
And I want to adapt that with the AI predicting models, then once we reach that level, the great thing about this is that we can scale up by scaling down, so we can be cost effective in scaling up. If we do, we have this module that we are developing, so it's the scale down module. So it's, for example, if you, instead of doing a test and several tests on how the cells behave at 10,000 liter bioreactors, you can imagine the costs the consumables, and it's highly it's costly. So with our package, we can do that same experiment to be representative in a smaller scale.
Can you talk just a little bit about, you said like you can optimize the process, right? So are there parameters that you're able to change or to predict, and others that you're not? Like if they were to introduce a different growth factor, for example, or use something that wasn't off the shelf?
So yes, as I mentioned, we are going to do that pretty flexible, because we are working in a very structured ways with big data. So the idea is to have that. We are developing a platform technology and being able to take the user case and being able to improve their cultural conditions. So yes, we definitely are going to be able to understand how the cells work under that environmental change. And if not, we have our wet lab, we do the experiment, we run it, and then we'll have that information anyway. So
awesome. Sofia, round of applause. Thank you so much. Amazing work. Tons of feedback we're getting in the chat. Okay, we are halfway through our pitches. We are going to welcome up Dr. Elizabeth Bennett. Welcome up to the stage. Let's get her up here and keep this thing going. All right, I will hand it over to you.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to meet you and to be with all of you today. All right.
We've got a little, she's having a little, there we go. We got her back.
Oh, am I here?
Yeah, we got you back. Okay.
Okay, good. So lots of terrible things happening at the moment that's causing stagnation in the plant-based meat market. Those three variables that all of us across the ecosystem are striving to fix right now are taste, price, and cost-efficient scalability of our technology. These are three of the biggest problems in the ecosystem, and Ouro Foods is on a mission to help all of us fix those problems together. All right, this beautiful little gal is a common fruit fly, and I'm showing you her this particular picture of her today because she's demonstrative of the way in which Ouro Foods' patent pending platform can be a real game-changing enabling technology for everyone throughout the ecosystem. So when this fruit fly was an embryo, a whole bunch of her embryo friends were very, very, very gently sprayed through a small needle called a biojet with the help of a very small volt of electricity. She and none of her friends were harmed at all through this process. On the other side, they grew normally and grew into the beautiful insect that you see here today. So if the embryos of whole complex organisms like common fruit flies can be efficiently sprayed by the hundreds through this tiny needle without harm or physical altercation, can you imagine what this technology can do for biofabricating alt protein products for everyone throughout the ecosystem? And we're talking about using living, functioning cells. This is exactly what Ouro Foods technology does. I'm just showing you one aspect of our patent pending platform. So what we're doing is we're transforming powerful cell damaging technologies into cell friendly methods for making whole cut proteins from animal cells, plants, and fungi. So what I'm showing you here, we're going to start with the sort of top sliver of the slide. So imagine you're looking at the top left, this single biojet. Imagine if what's being sprayed through that single biojet are coho salmon cells, coho salmon flavor molecules, fat cells, alginate, or some other sort of scaffolding materials, and some sort of fiber from plants. We'll say fiber from finger millets. How it would work is that this single biogel would work at nanoscale in order to build a structurally complex piece of coho salmon, and it would do it 30 times faster than what's currently on the market as far as 3D extrusion bioprinting. The end product would be a cleaner seafood with a distinctly mild flavor and firm texture of coho salmon, which consumers love. So on the bottom now of this slide is one visualization of what we think our technology would look like scaled. So now we have one biojet, we have a suspended sheet of biojets, and they're all spraying all of these sort of biopolymers into highly complex hybrid proteins that's less expensive to produce than exclusively cultivated products. And they still have us able to customize and perfectly mimic the nuanced flavor profiles that you get from coho salmon and any other animal species. Our technology is important because the alternative protein market is not monolithic. You can see growth trends over the course of the 10 or 15 years, but when you start breaking it down into subsectors within the market, you see differences. So we're starting with coho salmon in order to have initial revenue streams via white label opportunities, but where we really want to go and where our vision centers around is this idea of partnerships, big impactful partnerships within the ecosystem, because this is the best way that we're going to be able to sort of shape, leverage, optimize regulatory landscapes and then growth trends over the next 10 to 15 years. This is the rockstar team at Ouro Foods. Myself, I am a former academic. I have a humanities PhD from UC Berkeley. I was a Mellon Fellow at Stanford after that, and then I left to work in marketing for-profit and nonprofit institutions. And for the last 7 years, I've been building a content marketing agency specifically for climate impact brands. Our CTO, Dr. Hakan Gerbitz, is a bioengineer. He has been building various varieties of biofabrication techniques within alternative protein for Felix printers and at DTU. We have a chef on board because we're totally taste focused on creating something that consumers don't have to sacrifice for. And then our scientific advisory board are co-inventors of all of these technologies that Ouro Foods is working on. And we are so excited to be working with all of the founders on this pitch today and with the rest of you. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks so much for your presentation. Just a quick question around the technology and what's patented. Would love to learn a little bit more about you all's IP strategy and also the invention that they made and sort of what's protected today.
Yeah, for sure. So we have patent pending technology, we have applications in for one aspect of the platform, which is cell electrospinning and also bioelectrospraying. So electrospinning and electrospraying are already patented. They're being used actually in textile industries. So what our patents are around is making sure that the cell and the bio in those are actually able to use living cells. So we have those patent pending at the moment. They're actually owned by a different subsidiary that are using it for regenerative medicine. And what we will be doing is refiling those patents in order to use them for food applications. That's only 2 of the platforms that we're using, and the rest of it is going to be pending right now. So I guess I also want to clarify, so this is technology that's already been proven, just not in the food field. So regenerative medicine, 2 of our advisory board members have founded a company, and they're using this technology in order to create alternatives to lab animals and medical research. So they're creating tissue in order to take animals out of the lab. We're doing the same for food. So we're working with them closely as far as licensing goes. And then our patent strategy is specifically around food.
Thank you very much for the pitch. It was really good. What's your business model? If you think about like, okay, develop, scale, where do you want to go?
Yeah, so we're starting with coho salmon, and there was a big discussion among the team of where were we going to start. We could have started anywhere. We could have started seafood, meat. We started with seafood and specifically B2B. We're working specifically with distributors. We have no intentions right now of having any sort of D2C model. It's all B2B. We're starting with salmon. We're starting specifically with coho salmon because our technology is able to encapsulate flavor molecules, and that's where we see the sort of shining example of where we can really get into these nuanced flavor molecules. Flavor profiles. So if we started with someplace like beef or pork or chicken, there's not as much wiggle room that at least consumers are familiar with. But with salmon, you have 20 different varieties across the globe, 10 of which are staples, 5 in North America alone have very strong, differences in flavor profiles. So our technology can do that. So we're starting with salmon, selling directly to distributors, whether that's grocery stores, restaurants. We also have several scale-ups and startups that we want to start co-developing products, but we're focusing on one product right now just to have initial revenue streams. And then from there on, it's sort of an exciting opportunity to have more than one partner on board right now that's interested in either co-developing a product with us or having us develop parts of their value chain for them. So whether that's creating scaffolding with the cells in it, which is not something that anyone is doing right now, or if it's actually sort of working R&D with them to create something that's completely different. But we're focused right on the first product so that we have momentum and we have revenues to start those longer projects of development within partners in the ecosystem.
Elizabeth, can you talk? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Manon.
Sorry, now the connection went off. I just had a follow-up question concerning your go-to-market strategy. So I didn't quite understand. So when will you be kind of ready for the first product and really go to the market? How long will it take?
Yeah, so our MVP, we have a recipe ready to go. We have a first iteration of hardware ready to go. We have lab space. So right now we're planning on 18 months, assuming that all of our funding comes through, that we can start January 1 of 2023. And that's an MVP of coho salmon. And we plan to have one machine scaled so that right now we have a sort of head with 30 biojets, and we want to have at least 100 on a sheet when that MVP is ready to go. So 18 to 24 months, assuming we start January 1.
What kind of volumes will you be able to do?
Yeah, so by year 3, we're thinking about 10,000 kilograms for just the salmon, and then exponentially growing that by 10. We would like to go for a seed round in 2025 that will actually give us the funds to build an actual facility. And right now we'll either be relying on only lab space or thinking about a third-party manufacturing situation until we have funds for our own production facility. But starting at 10,000, year 7, we're about 200,000 kilograms, which is about 30% more than the annual harvest of coho salmon from Alaska from 2021. So we would completely replace that harvest from annual output.
And can you talk about just a little, where the cells derived? It sounds like maybe, is your first product plant-based only?
It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid.
Okay.
So the cell line would be coho salmon, so that would be a one-time sort of a product input there. We're thinking very strongly about the recipe that we're working with now is millet fibers. We started with pea protein fibers when we were just sort of scaling this out. Pea protein is going to be pretty expensive for us to grow at the pace we want, and we're seeing a lot of opportunity for millet. Only because it's a drought-resistant crop. It's grown as far north as Canada and as far south as South Africa. It's seen as a sort of centralizing crops for small farmer communities and sort of a centralizing crops for regenerative agriculture. It also has a lot of the flavor profiles that we're working with salmon, and our research partner at the University of Reading, the Flavor Institute, has been working a lot about extracting specifically salmon flavors from millet grains.
And so for the animal cells that you will be using, are you working with a partner to create those? Are you doing that in-house? Can you talk just a little bit about that process?
Sure, we would work with a partner. We would purchase them. That's actually one of the supply chains within our ecosystem that we don't have an LOI for. We have partners on the supply side for the flavor molecules, for the alternative growth proteins, for the growth media for cultivated, and we have some plant suppliers as well. The cell lines will most likely come from an academic partner, and that's one of the sort of black box situations we're working through now. But we won't be produced in-house. We'll be purchasing them.
So the cell lines you'll be getting from an academic partner, but then who's doing the cell production? Like who's scaling up the volumes? Okay.
That would be us. Yeah, that would be us. And the reason why we're doing that is that we are able to grow the scaffolds at the same time that the cells are in them. That's sort of the beauty of having the alginate or any sort of scaffolding material with the cells, with the plant fibers, as it's spraying down into, the shape of a salmon fillet.
And then the plan is to use the spraying technology to create a scaffold that then the cells are growing on?
Already in, yeah. So the whole thing will go into the bioreactor. Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So it's condensing several steps, of course.
So in your presentation, you talked about bringing costs down. So what does that actually look like?
Sure. So we're thinking about the way we're bringing a cost down. We're looking at it in relation to the way that plant-based and even cell-based are using 3D extrusion bioprinting right now. The idea of scaling that has become really hard because you can't really speed up a single nozzle. You just have to keep adding more nozzles. But the two primary ways that we're bringing costs down is condensing, as Heather just brought up, condensing the sort of length of times and steps in the bioreacting process. There's also a way in which we can reduce the cost of the plant inputs by about 30% from moving from pea to protein. It's less time and less cells involved because it's a hybrid product. And also one of our scientific advisor, Samad, is the CEO of New Bio. They're a BIV cohort startup right now, and they're creating animal-free growth serum alternatives. And we can get that about 90% cheaper than if we were to go with the typical BFS serum. So across the supply chain, throughout the value chain, there's a few places that we've already earmarked that we can bring costs down.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Fantastic pitch. Let's give a round of applause.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so we are rounding out to the end. I think Elizabeth just joined from my now home of California, and our final pitcher is going to be joining from my motherland of Canada, Jennifer Côté. Let's bring you up. All right. You are up, my dear. I will hand it over to you. See you.
Great. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer, and I'm the CEO and co-founder at Opalia, based in Montreal. I am super excited to be here amongst these 4 amazing founders, all working on such different but fascinating technologies. So at Opalia, we are building the future of dairy. We believe that it's time for dairy to modernize and become safer, better, and kinder. The traditional dairy industry is responsible for environmental degradation, animal exploitation, and for contributing to the spread of pathogens. So in order to be more sustainable and animal friendly, an increasing number of customers have been turning towards dairy alternatives, with the alternative dairy market growing from 19 billion in 2019 to an expected 123 billion by 2030. Unfortunately, the major complaint still today is that alternatives don't taste or feel like real dairy, which is a disincentive for many customers who would like to purchase more sustainable alternatives. So I co-founded Opalia, where we make whole milk without using any cows, but bovine mammary cells. These cells allows us to make a whole milk product that is sustainable, that is animal-free, so ethically made, and that is cost-effective due to our patent-pending technology, and most important of all, fully functional. The team behind this is small but powerful. I myself have a background in behavioral science and management. My co-founder, he's a genetic engineer with expertise in lactation. We have John, which has a PhD in experimental medicine and over 10 years of cell culture experience. And last but not least, Liana is a molecular biologist with expertise in mammary cell, having done her research on breast cancer. We also have a team of advisors and investors who have ranging expertise from the dairy industry, food industry, biotech, pharmaceutical industry, and much more. But now let's go back to the subject at hand, milk without cows. How exactly is that possible and how are we doing it? It all starts with cells. So we take the cells from raw milk. That way we don't have to slaughter any cow or hurt any cow in any way. These cells are then genetically modified using our patent-pending technology. Then these cells will grow inside of a bioreactor that mimics the inside of the cow in architecture and pH, oxygenation, all of it. And then we feed them with a cocktail of molecules that is proprietary. And then we can instigate lactation so that we have a whole milk product. This milk product can be either in the form of a liquid or a powder, and can be used as an ingredient in a variety of different segments, such as food, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. Unlike your competitors, we are able to deliver on full functionality and identical taste because we are able to make all of the components of real milk, so proteins, fats, and sugars. We are also nutritionally complete, which is super important for us. And finally, of course, we are sustainable, more sustainable than the traditional dairy industry because we do not use cows. Since our creation in 2021, we've made a proof of concept. We received strategic investment from leaders in the food tech industry. We signed a letter of intent with a major exporter of milk proteins here in Canada. We have found a fetal bovine serum replacement that allowed us to dramatically reduce the cost of our process and as well make our process completely animal-free. We have also achieved proof of complexity at bench scale, meaning that we have proven that we are able to make all of the components of milk, all of the proteins are present, as well as fats and sugars. And we also raised non-dilutive funding from the Canadian government, which is very generous, and we're very happy to be in Canada for that reason. Right now, we are raising a seed round for $3.5 million that will help us go to prototype scale so that we are able to work with the industry directly and work on functionality, nutrition, taste, all of the components. So right now, if you're interested in either an investment, learning more, or simply being part of this revolution, contact me today and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much.
I have one question. So we are invested in biomilk, and they're basically producing mother's milk, also through a cell-based cell cultivation methodology. And they're basically taking really breast cells, cultivate them, and then basically the milk is secreted.
Yes.
And you are doing a different. I would have thought also, even if the cow is kind of the host, you would need to have a similar process. But it seems you're taking directly the milk. So maybe you can explain a bit more how this works.
So the process is similar. We also take cells. However, the cells are harvested from the milk itself. So either instead of taking a biopsy of the tissue, we can simply milk the cow. And when the cow is milked, the cells detach naturally. And we can take these cells to establish our cell lines. This was only done once with a very, very small amount of milk. And that way we have cells forever that are immortal.
And are there any specific cells that you're targeting within the milk, or as you said, you're basically managing to get like a very small scale of the fully functioning milk?
Yeah, so there are different types of cells. There are luminal cells that produce milk, and there are myoepithelial cells that are kind of the muscle cells that compress and push the milk out. So we have two different cell types. We cultivate different cell lines, and that allows us to kind of replicate the inside of the cow udder with different types of cells.
And so effectively, when you look at the end product, is it fully identical to milk in its entire composition across like the voice protein, across the fat, across the sugars, and across all of the other ingredients? Or are there specific differences, or are there specific areas you're focusing on more?
Yes, we're focusing mainly on taste and functionality. So it's important for us to have all of the main proteins. So the 6 main proteins, 4 caseins and 4 caseins and 2 whey proteins are really important for functionality. Fats, similarly, focusing on milk fat globules and lactose for the sugar aspects. It's not bioidentical. There are some components that are missing. And for now, it's hard to identify because of the scale. But our goal is to be closer to functionality and nutrition than to be bioidentical.
And in terms of business model, what do you want to focus on?
So we want to sell our milk as an ingredient. So work directly with the industry to put our product in existing products. So basically not disrupting the chain, but just providing them with the whole milk, just like they would buy from a dairy farm. And then adding our product into cheese, yogurt, ice cream, all kinds of dairy products. We can even segue into pharmaceuticals or cosmetics.
So you see yourself as an ingredient company?
Yes.
And what do the costs look like compared to milk alternatives and dairy milk?
Mm-hmm. So it depends on the scale. At first, it will be quite more expensive. So we will target products such as whole milk powder that can be currently sold on the market between $20 to $50 kilogram. So that will be our first entry or something similar. And then as we scale up, just like the dairy industry, the more you produce, the cheaper it is. We can easily have a pathway to price parity, which we've already shown in our techno-economic model by reducing the price of basal medium and removing any growth factors from our process, which we already don't use. And also the different molecules that activate lactation are also proprietary. All of that have allowed us to be price competitive even at this scale. So it will continue increasing as we get bigger and bigger.
I think probably your main competition will be in future the precision fermentation will be because they can also already produce casein and whey. And I think they will be earlier to the market and will be more cost competitive. So what is the advantage really of your technology if the other one is already from a nutritional point of view very high? Because I think from a cost perspective, cell cultivation and dairy will be very, very difficult.
Yes, the two methods are very different. In the fermentation industry, the nutritional value is not complete. You can only produce one protein at a time. You don't have all of the other components that makes milk complex and make milk what it is. You have to combine your protein that is made with fermentation with either plant-based fats or synthetic sugars, so that way you lose the nutritional value. You also, since you don't have the sugars or the fats in your product, you lose a lot of the mouthfeel and the texture of the products. In our case, you don't have to add anything. The milk is already complete. So we believe that when both of these technologies are at scale, 5-10 years from now, developed, we will be outcompeting the traditional fermentation companies because we are able to deliver on everything without having to worry of adding additives or any other byproducts.
Can you speak a little bit more to your scale of production that you're currently functioning at now? Are you all at demo stage, pilot? And when do you expect to really get to that mass production?
Mm-hmm. We're still very early in the process. We are not yet at pilot scale. We anticipate to be at pilot around 2025, 2026, depending on the scalability. We are one of the only companies focusing on traditional dairy and going to the products. And the reason that we're focusing on this market and not infant formula is because of our aggressive timeline for price parity. We have a lot of technology around our genetic engineering, which allows us to be price competitive pretty early, which is the reason we don't have to focus on a higher margin market, just like the infant formula companies.
Can you talk also just about, so when your product, when it comes out of the bioreactor, is it in liquid form? Is there any downstream processing that needs to happen or purification, or is it ready to be sold?
Yeah, it comes in a liquid form. Currently, the bioreactor we're working from separates the milk from the medium, so it doesn't have to be purified in any way. And that's the whole advantage of our technology, is that we don't want to add any steps after the production. It facilitates shipping. It also facilitates the getting to price parity.
And what volume have you produced what are you able to produce today?
It's in the milliliters. It's very small.
Okay.
Yeah, this next round of fundraising will allow us to buy a bigger bioreactor, so have more cells seated inside that will allow us to have a prototype, so many liters of milk. And it would also allow us to work with the industry, which we already have a lot of requests to from major distributors of dairy and major food companies that want to test their product inside of existing products that are already on the market to see how they perform in terms of taste, functionality, and also nutrition.
And this kind of goes back to Manon's question too. There are certain proteins and components within dairy that are really the functional components, right? And are you able to create, is there a micelle within your end product? Does it behave functionally just like dairy would?
Functionally, we don't know because we don't have enough volume. However, we know that they're present, all 4 casein, and you need all 4 casein to make a micelle. So we have stained our cells to show that these micelles are present, but we have yet to test the functionality.
Okay. And so your value proposition is that you're creating a completely nutritionally complete analog for animal-derived dairy, not just the functional component to be added to like a lower cost. Okay.
Yeah, replacing it entirely.
And can you come back from at the beginning of the process? Is it so the cells you're taking, and are you modifying them, or the end product will be a GMO product, or are you not?
Yes, good question. We are engineering our cells. However, the cell is not the end product. You don't consume it. The milk is the end product, and technically the genetic engineering is not done on the end product, so it's not considered genetically modified.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
Awesome pitch. Last one of the day. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Great job. Let's give her a round of applause. Okay, that is our 5 pitches. How are you guys feeling?
Jazzed.
Yeah, it only took a bit of a delay there. Everybody, it's a lot to synthesize. This year's pitches were, compared to 2 years ago when we first did this, like extremely well-developed companies compared to where we were only a couple years ago. So it really shows how fast the industry is growing. So everybody, this is our last segment. I'm going to be taking our investor jury offline, and we will be meeting to deliberate on who we want to crown the winner of Pathfinder this year. As a reminder, this is your last group of time to put in our final VWS Pathfinder shares for the day on social media to enter to win tickets to Vegan Women's Summit. So make sure to share in the next 30 minutes. Our final keynote will begin now with Miyoko Schinner and Dr. Sandhya Sriam speaking about the future of food. Enjoy.
Thanks, Jenny. All right. Well, we got 30 minutes to get to know each other and tell the audience all about what we're doing while the jury is out deliberating on the 5 finalists. So this is a really exciting time. I am so glad to see you again, Sandhya. I'd love to hear from you what you're doing. Tell us about your company, what inspired you, and what you're trying to do in the world.
Thanks, Miyoko. Pleasure to be here, and all the best to all the startups or entrepreneurs that presented today. I think everybody is a winner, but I'm excited to see what comes out of this event.
Absolutely.
Great to see you again, Miyoko. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks, but feels like yesterday. Yeah, so I'm actually the group CEO and co-founder of Shiok Meats, and we are a Singapore headquartered cultivated seafood company. And Shiok actually means delicious or fantastic in Singapore and Malay slang, hence the name of the company.
Okay.
In fact, I think in Menlo Park in California, there's a restaurant called Shiok, and it serves like Singapore cuisine food.
Mhm.
So it's a very common word that we use in this part of the world to especially talk about food or fashion that's amazing and delicious and fantastic. So the company was started in 2018 by myself and my co-founder Kai. I'm actually a stem cell scientist by background. I also am a serial entrepreneur. This is my 3rd startup, but I'm extremely passionate about stem cells as well as the environment and animals and food in general. So I sort of put all of that in one plate and then started Shiok Meats about 4.5 years ago. And we make seafood like shellfish and crustaceans like shrimp, prawns, crabs, lobsters, crayfish, using stem cells so that you don't have to catch them in the wild or you don't have to set up a large aquaculture facility. You pretty much just take the stem cells and make the seafood that's as delicious and nutritious as it comes from the conventional production.
That's amazing. So how long does it take to make a shrimp, for example?
Yeah, so it takes about 4 to 6 weeks in a large stainless steel tank called a bioreactor, but it's pretty much a fancy name for somewhat of a greenhouse for stem cells. Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks for a kilogram, 4 to 6 weeks for 1,000 kilograms as well. It just depends on the size of the equipment that you have.
So are you making it and serving it in Singapore right now?
We're making it, we're not serving it yet. The reason being we do need to get regulatory approval. This is a novel product and it goes through a very rigorous safety assessment and a regulatory approval by the Singapore Food Agency, which is sort of the equivalent of the FDA in the US. We are looking to submit to them very soon and they take about a year to review it. But in the meantime, we are scaling up the technology, making it more affordable, making it scalable, and at the same time making sure that the final product is safe, healthy, delicious, nutritious, all of the things that we need in food.
Now, in the so-called cell-based space, you hear mostly about male-led companies. How many female-led companies are there in this space?
Interestingly, I don't think it's an issue in the cultivated meat or seafood space. There are many, many female-led companies around the globe. I think we are a good 140 companies in this industry around the world. And I would say definitely a good 30 to 40% has at least one female co-founder, at least in the founding team, or a female in the management team, that sort of a thing. I'm seeing a lot of diversity even among the nationalities from different parts of the world. We have companies from Africa, Europe, South America, North America, of course, different parts of Asia, Australia, and New Zealand as well. It's quite heartwarming to see that. We see a lot more female, we see a lot more diversity in this industry, and I'm super excited.
What are you scared of? You're super excited, but what are the challenges to getting something like this off the ground?
Scale, scale, and scale. Nothing else. I think, there were, if you had asked me this question 2.5 years back, I would have said regulatory, funding, sort of getting the price parity and so all of that. But I think all those issues can be solved. And even then, I knew that they can be solved. I know scale can be solved, but it's not going to be by just you or me or just a VC or just a few people. It's everybody coming together, be it the government, be it the private industry, the public, the different food companies, the MNCs, the startups. All of us have to come together, because if you want to disrupt a multi-trillion-dollar industry that the meat and seafood industry is, and produce the multiple tons that you need space, you need energy, you need water, you need infrastructure, you need scale, you need equipment that can scale. And right now we don't have that. So that scares me. I'm glad that so many companies have an amazing technology and innovation in place. But right now, either capital that goes into infrastructure or the infrastructure itself is not in place. So that's something that keeps me up at night.
Okay, so where do you think the industry is going? Do you think there is hope for scaling, that everyone's going to come together and coalesce? Or do you think you're going to have other challenges, like in the plant-based space right now? You read about, is plant-based dead? Is it over? Blah, 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 etc. I mean, where do you think this whole industry is going? And do you feel like your industry, your category can achieve all of its goals?
I truly believe we can, but all we need is some time, and we need everybody to come together. We are seeing that happening already. We are seeing the large food companies coming, the governments coming in, the VCs, the impact funds, the sustainability arms, philanthropy, all of them coming in, but they're not coming in enough. They should come in with larger quantities, more of them, more money into this for infrastructure, more shared infrastructure for production needs to be there. But I also think all of the companies in this space are not yet at a place where we can produce a couple of tons every day. We are all at the very small scale to mid scale right now. So I think everybody's just waiting and watching and seeing if things will happen. But I think it needs to be the other way around. If the infrastructure comes in place, companies like us will move faster. So what we can learn, Miyoko, honestly, I don't think the plant-based space or the cultivated space will ever die. I think it's just a matter of pace and time and scale. I think we all need to come together, including the plant-based and the cultivated coming together, precision fermentation, all of us coming together to look into shared resources, what knowledge that we can share between, what, sort of infrastructure we can share between the companies. For example, the plant-based and the cultivated space can definitely share downstream infrastructure, like your packaging and your labeling and your storage and all of that. Each cultivated meat company need not build our own downstream facility. Plant-based has done it. You guys have done it at scale. So why not, learn from that, use those facilities into which millions of dollars have gone into. So I just feel that everyone need to come together much faster than what it is. And hybrid products are the way to go. To have a 100% cultivated product, it is going to take us a couple of years. So prior to
Okay,
that,
so stop right there for a second. So you just said hybrid products.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Are you saying that just within our lifetime or within the number of years we have left before we have to do something to save the planet, that it's just not quite achievable, and so there's a hybrid model that you think is faster to scale? And what does that look like?
For sure. And why I bring up about hybrid products is, see, cultivated meat or seafood is still expensive. I think even at Chiyok Meats, we are at $50 a kilogram, which is still more than what a shrimp costs or what, seafood in general costs. And when it reaches the end consumer, it's going to be much higher than $50 per kilogram, right? This is our production cost. So given all of that, if you want to launch this as an affordable product, yes, initially in the premium market, but eventually you want to make it available for the masses at an affordable price, we do need to make hybrid products. And What I mean by that is if you're having a dumpling, let's just take a dumpling. I'm going to take that because it's my most favorite dish. It's generally made up of pork and shrimp or chicken and shrimp. So in our case, and the ratio is about 80 to 20. So 80 pork, 80 chicken, or 20 shrimp. So what we do is the shrimp is 20% cultivated, but we don't make pork or chicken yet. So our idea is what we do is we mix it with plant-based chicken or pork that's out there. So this is how we create a hybrid product. We either buy the plant-based product and then we make the hybrid, or we collaborate with a plant-based company and then we make a hybrid product together. This makes sense because plant-based can bring in the texture, the bulk of the product. The pricing is not as premium as cultivated at this point, but what cultivated brings in is nutrition and taste. So when you put these two together, it makes a super nice product at the end of the day that's delicious, has texture, has nutrition, and has scale as well.
That's really interesting. I've been thinking a lot about how you communicate all of this to a consumer. I mean, at this point, I feel like the bulk of the consumers, as I go about in the world and meet people wherever, on a plane or out and about in town, most people that are not in this industry, who aren't vegan or vegetarian, are already grappling with what plant-based means or what vegan means. Like, they don't quite get it. And so there is another step when you talk about, well, it's actually grown in a bioreactor and it comes from a stem cell. They're struggling with that as well too. And I feel like the whole industry really needs to, and when I talk about the industry, I'm talking about all of the different technologies. We have to really figure out, how do we talk to people? Because the dairy industry, the meat industries had obviously decades and decades to figure out what communication styles work for audiences, but we haven't really had that opportunity to figure it out. It's kind of hit or miss. We're not spending as much on advertising as meat and dairy anyway, and when we do, oftentimes it's about, well, it doesn't have this, it doesn't, it's free of this, it doesn't have that, but we don't really talk about what it does have, or what it can do, or the benefits besides environmental. And so I'm really like racking my brain trying to figure out, what is the best communication tool? How can we communicate all the differences and the similarities between the different technologies? Because at some point, the consumers are already confused. At some point, if all of these products come into the marketplace, so we've got plant-based, and we've got precision fermentation, and cell-based, and hybrid. I mean, how do we talk about these things? How do we find language that's adequate to describe all of this to consumers? I'm trying to figure that out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a very complex problem, complex question, complex answer. But one of the things that I keep saying, from the time I started Shiok, I knew that it'll take us at least 5 to 7 years to launch the product, which meant we have 5 to 7 years to actually talk about it, educate the consumers, get them to a point where they're ready. We can answer all their questions, their queries, and so on. So that's exactly what we have been doing. Not just at Shiok Meats. I'm a strong advocate of education of consumers of new technologies. So I just do it personally as an entrepreneur, and I encourage every other company to do that. So as part of that, what I did was I spearheaded an APAC's association, or Society for Cellular Agriculture, where one of our key objectives is consumer education and consumer, to get access to consumer insights and what do the consumers actually want. We as an industry are doing something, yes, but at the end of the day, you need to figure out if the consumers actually want it, or what is that they are looking for that we are giving them an answer to. And recently,
well, do they know?
Yeah, do they know exactly?
Know?
Yeah,
do they even know?
Do they want to know? Yeah, do they want to know? That sort of a thing. What are they scared of? What are the questions in their minds? So that's an important part of what we do. We don't just run an innovative company that makes a very amazing product. We are a company that is doing everything from consumer education to industry education to VC education to all of it. And as part of that coalition, what we did just as of last week is we actually formed a tripartite association with the Europe Cellular Agriculture, the one in North America. So we are all coming together to do consumer education together, because honestly, consumer education cannot be the same in the US versus Europe versus Asia. Just in
Right.
Asia, between every 500 kilometers, the way I educate consumers is different. The way
Mm-hmm.
I call cultivated meat is different. It doesn't translate into the right word in Japanese or Korean or Bahasa or whatever it is. So we have to think about all of that. We have to think about where these countries are, whether they're developed, they're developing, or underdeveloped, and where they are in the whole, macro of things. So it's a lot of moving parts, but I don't have the perfect answer to this. But what I would say is every company, every part of this industry just needs to talk more about it, and do not put out their lofty claims like, this is 100% more nutritious or 20% more. If you don't have the data to back it, don't talk about it. All you can say right now, yes, if it's delicious, you can say it's delicious, and you've tried it with a couple of test people, then you can tell that. If it's nutritious, you can talk about it, but prove it. Does it have the protein content? Does it have the amino acid profile? Is
Mm-hmm.
it low in cholesterol? Don't give out lofty claims, because that's going to come back to bite you. So
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about producing multi-tons in a day if you don't have the capacity yet. Be truthful to what you're saying. Say what it's out there, and be very realistic about the timelines as well. One of the things that I keep telling is, everybody asks me, so when do you think cultivator is going to be mass scale? I'm like, at least give it a decade. Give it a decade from today for it to go into mass scale. But in the meantime, what we're doing is at least launching a product, at least in one restaurant in a few countries. That's sort of where we're going to be.
Okay, sort of like just. Okay, I'm going to switch gears for a minute because we're both women. I'm a mom, but my kids are adults. They're off and doing other things. One of them lives in Japan, and two of them live in California. And but I had another business back in the 1990s when my kids were toddlers, when they were little. And I remember trying to run my production facility and the business and go on sales calls and go to expo and all of this while managing the raising of three young children. And it was a really, it's difficult. And so I understand you're a mom. Can you tell us about that? And how do you manage that? I mean, because what you're doing right now, it's not like you're, I don't know, working at you got a little retail dress shop or something like that. You're on to some big stuff here that's requiring a lot of your attention, not just during the workday, but I'm sure you take your work home with you, at least in your head. You're thinking about it all the time. So tell us about family life, your kids. How do you balance all of that?
It's hard. It's super hard. I don't know how you did it with three kids. I can't even do it with one. So, hats off to you. But it's hard. But I think for me, I say this with a lot of conviction. I think it's impossible to achieve work-life balance if you're an entrepreneur in a very, engaging,
Yeah.
fast-growing industry like ours. I think you need to prioritize. So when I became an entrepreneur, I said my focus is going to be work. And I have no guilt in admitting it, right? So but that doesn't mean I'm ignoring my family, but it means I have made sure that there is a support system that can take care of my son and can, bring him up in the way that I want to bring him up, or give him the values that I want to give him. And of course, set aside time, like dedicated time. It's on my calendar that says, play with Arav, my son, or like spend time with him. And that's the only way it happens. Otherwise, because somebody else is managing my calendar, like my assistant manager or my EA. And if there's any free time, if somebody asks for a meeting, she's going to put it in, right? So I need to make sure that it's sort of blocked off for family time. Same time, same goes with, time with my spouse as well. I've known him for many, many, many years. We've been married for about 12 now. We've met each other when we were 12, so about 25 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Like childhood love. But, at the end of the day, you need to make time and make that effort to keep the marriage alive, to keep it really good and have that family life that you need. And of course, friction will happen here and there. But you know what? Communication is the best way. Keep it open, talk about it, let your spouse and your kid know what to expect in the next coming weeks. Like last week was the Singapore Food Tech Week, and I knew I'm going to leave before they wake up and come after they sleep. And I set their expectation 1 week in advance. I told them from Monday to Friday next week, you're not going to see me. It's not because I don't want to spend time with you, but I have a super busy week. I hope you'll be supportive. Like I told my husband, please manage, our son's school and like homework. If something needs to be checked, I won't be available. And if you WhatsApp me, I'll probably not reply to you because I'm busy in meetings. So I think it's about talking to each other about it, setting the expectations. I literally told my mom when I started Shiok Meets that you'll probably hear from me only once a week. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to talk to you or I don't love you, right? But every day in the morning, I'll say you hi and I'll say you good night in the evening, and that much I can do. But I'm not going to be able to talk to you every day because I just don't have the time. So I think it's about communication, setting the expectations, and also prioritizing. Is it family or is it work? I don't think you can do 50-50 of both. You really need to decide what it's going to be.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have a really supportive husband as well, too, which is really
Yes,
great.
I do.
So, yeah.
He's an entrepreneur too, so that helps.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that could be challenging, huh?
No, but he's sort of settled. Like now, he's no more in his early stages. He's already in a
Oh,
very well established company, so it's fine. Yeah.
oh, that's good. That's good. Well, that's wonderful. Okay, so let's go back and talk about the whole industry. And we were talking about earlier, is plant-based dead, et cetera. But what are we doing wrong? I mean, is it just infrastructure that we're lacking those things? Or is there something that all of us are just not doing right yet? Do you?
I would just say it's lofty claims. I don't think it's a plant-based thing or a cultivated thing. I think it's set again, when you asked about work-life balance, I said setting expectations. I think
Mhm.
with our industry also, we just need to set the expectations right. I know in the VC world, big numbers work, so we sort of go for that. But at the end of the day, you need to remember that those big numbers may not be achievable, and all those numbers are projections, right? You're guessing it, or you're sort of making a calculated guess at that point, or a projection. But at the end of the day, consumers start questioning, well, you said this will be this, but it's not there yet. Why is it not? And and with the age of social media, they sort of stick to what you've said a year ago or 5 years ago, and they sort of pull it back. That article comes, the screenshot comes back, and they question you on it and stuff like that. So I think it's about keeping it real, keeping it as it's supposed to be right now, and then setting the expectations for the future. So when the cultivated industry came about, and I saw that people will, launch it in 100 countries in 5 years, I'm like, no, that's not happening, because you know what? It's not about infrastructure at that point. It's about regulatory, because regulatory for these products are going to take time. And it's not like a regulatory body will just decide overnight, okay, I'm going to regulate this and approve this. That's not happening. History has shown us that things take time as you make novel things. And at the end of the day, it's food. People are buying it to ingest it, put it in their mouth. It's part of their health, it's part of their diet. You need to be extremely careful with the claims that you put out there. So Miyoko, I know you've been asking me a lot of questions, but I'm going to throw this question back to you, because you have been in the plant-based industry for so long. What do you think is going wrong? I don't think it's dead. I don't think it's dying. I just think we are self-correcting ourselves at this point of time. But what do you think will get this industry moving forward?
I think part of the problem is that we're in our nascency. The industry is very, very young. One thing that the plant-based milk Silk did right, I think it was 15, 20 years ago, was at one time you couldn't even find soy milk. You had to go in the dark corner of a grocery store to find it. And then Silk put it in a gable and put it in the milk section. And that really changed the game for that, and made it so much more accessible for everybody else. I don't feel that in the plant-based meat, plant-based cheese, we figured out how to market our products, how to communicate to consumers yet, in the same way that the meat and dairy industry have managed to do. And I think that is limiting our growth. But that being said, we're only at the very beginning of this industry. And what we're doing is we're taking old tactics that worked for breakfast cereal, for example, or any other CPG product, but we're just taking CPG marketing tactics or sales tactics, and we're just applying them to what we're trying to do, which is actually create new models for a food system. So these aren't CPG products in a way. And when your products come into the marketplace, they're not going to be CPG products either. It's sort of like when the iPhone came out. If Steve Jobs had just said, I have a new cell phone and we're just going to promote it just like all the other cell phones have been promoted, it wouldn't have communicated what it was, and it would not have started a revolution in smartphones.
Yeah.
And so we have to start thinking like that. And we're not. We're just taking the same old tactics and doing a rinse and repeat, and it's not working, and it's not crossing the chasm to the larger population. At least, Beyond and Impossible spent so much money on advertising initially that everyone in the world at least knows their names. But 50% of households have plant-based milk in their refrigerator. 50% of households do not have plant-based meat or plant-based cheese in their refrigerator.
Yeah.
So we haven't figured that out yet, and we need to figure out how in order for us to get there. And I think it's going to become even more challenging when more precision fermented products or cultivated meat products come into the marketplace. I mean, we really, really need to sort of coalesce as an industry. And as you were saying, it's not even just about infrastructure, it's about communication. I think that is a huge problem right now.
Yeah, I hope things get better for all of us.
Yes. So let's talk about the future. I mean, this whole conference is about women entrepreneurs that want to make a change. In the light of the fact that there's so many challenges, what would you recommend to women entrepreneurs coming into this? Like, how should they be thinking about it?
I think just go for it. That's always been my sort of line that I always say when somebody asks me, what do you think? Should we do it? And I just said, go for it, but be extremely strong-minded, extremely physically strong as well, because that sort of feeds into your mental strength, and have an amazing support system around you for yourself, for your family. If you have a family, like if you have kids or a spouse or a partner. But you know what? This journey will pull your mental strings so hard that you will
Yes.
be so tired by 3 o'clock in the afternoon or by 10 o'clock in the morning, because you've just woken up and in the first hour you've seen everything that can go wrong in the day. And it's sort of like, but you have to like bring yourself back up and be that strong person and be smiling, and for your employees and for your team and for the world out there, but also be vulnerable. It's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable, but find the people that you can be vulnerable around. I think, Miyoko, you and I stand for that, and we are always available for other women entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general to sort of support them. And sometimes, you know what? You just need someone to listen to you. You don't need a solution. You don't need an answer. You don't need advice. All you need is somebody to just, for a shoulder to just lean on and to cry on sometimes. And I would actually say cry it out. If your day is bad, just cry it out as much as you want. It doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you stronger. It makes you stronger
Yep.
because you've let all your emotions out. And the next day is another new day where you can literally do whatever you want and whatever you set your mind on.
Yeah, there's lots of ups and downs. But what I've also found in mentoring a lot of women entrepreneurs is that, women tend to doubt themselves much more
Yeah.
than men. And so these women will be talking to me and telling me of their ideas, and they feel so much better when I affirm their idea, that it was actually, what they're thinking is actually right. And then they go, and I didn't even give them the advice. They came up with it on their own, but they just need someone to say, you know what? You're thinking the right thing. This is the right direction.
Yeah.
What do you think about investors? I mean, there was a time when people could just, start a little business. Like you could be a smallholder farmer or a mom and pop shop, or you could start a little, a little business cottage industry, and then you could grow it. And today there's this pressure. If you don't get investors, you can't stay relevant. What do you think about that? Do you think there's a way for entrepreneurs to get started without, millions of dollars being invested?
Totally think so, but depends where you want to be in 10 years' time. So if you want to be a $500 million company or a $1 billion company, then to an extent you have to raise capital so that you can grow, and depends on what technology you have, right? If it's a If it's a cultivated meat company, I'm sure you're not having a product from day one, right? You have to do a lot of R&D, you have to grow, you have to scale, and you know the lifespan of that is about 5 to 7 years. And yes, you have to raise money. But on the other side, I'm not saying the plant-based industry is very easy, but at least you can have a prototype or a product that you can make at least in your kitchen to start off with. But a cultivated product, you can't make it in your
You
kitchen.
cannot do
You
that.
need
No.
a lab. Yeah, you need a lab.
It's
Precision
allowed.
fermentation depends. You
Yep.
can look at a commercial kitchen at least.
The barrier
So I
to
think
entry.
depends. Yeah, depends on your business and the model and where you want to be
Right.
in 10 years' time. Every business need not be a $500 million business.
No,
It can
it
be a
doesn't.
few million
That's
or a few
very
100,000, and you are
That is
successful.
very important advice. Absolutely. Everyone needs to have an opportunity. Okay. I know that we have to sign off because we're going to find out who is the winner. So it was great chatting with you, Sandhya. All right, Jenny.
What an epic keynote chat. Miyoko always brings it every year. She's hosted our keynote final chat. I'd love to hear what you all think about it. So let's bring up our jury. We have deliberated and we are about to announce our winner. Okay, let's get everybody up. All right. And we'll see, can we get Caroline up? Caroline was having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues. So, okay, we can get started without her and hopefully she can join. What an incredible set of pitches that we have watched. Before we name our winner in just a moment, we're going to go around the room real quick and just say, a few words about how we felt about this year's pitches and why we chose the one we chose without saying yet who it is. We'll start with you, Heather.
So this was really exciting. It's awesome to see a bunch of really smart women that are working on creating the future of food. So that's really exciting. I thought that the winner that we chose really clearly defined their value proposition and the product that they're working on and how their business will look in 5 years. So I think that that was why I picked this winner.
Awesome. Stephanie?
Yes, thank you all for such wonderful presentations. You all had, really extremely and compelling business models and very differentiated paths to market. And we're able to really dive into, the team and the product that you were building. So thank you all for that. I would say the one that we chose today was, particularly compelling with respect to the founder and the product and really the path to be able to expand. So really excited about what they're building.
Awesome. Manan?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think it was really fantastic pitches, and I was really overwhelmed by the innovation and the standard of this year. And there was so much breakthrough in technology and science behind it. So I think really fantastic. And we've seen a lot, actually, really new ones defining new categories even. So I think that the standard was very high. So I picked the winner because I think what Heather pointed out, also from a cost perspective and also go-to-market strategy, it's clearly differentiated, but it's also very near to get traction in the market and be a real alternative very soon.
Rabinder?
I thought the pitches were really, really strong. I think watching them, I felt in awe really that, there were some great businesses and some great leaders out there. And yeah, I felt really proud that there are so many great women entrepreneurs out there. So I think amazing. In terms of the winner that we picked, I think it was at this moment in time, a really differentiated proposition. You could see that it could be real winner and growth in the market. It's really exciting, and it's a product that I could get really excited about. And I think as an investor, you've got to buy into the product, and that's really, really important. And I think we all did on this one.
Okay, everybody ready for it? Let's get like a little clap going. Can we get like a virtual kind of drum roll here? Okay, welcome to the stage, Verónica. Come on, welcome up. Congratulations. Let's get you up here, girl.
Hi.
You're the winner.
Thank you.
Yes. Awesome. Congratulations. How do you feel?
Thank you so much. Thank
It was really not expected, but amazing.
And you got family tuning in from all over right now?
Yes, my parents are watching. Super nice from Mexico. As my boyfriend is also here listening to everything. So amazing. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I've been a huge fan of VWS for a long time now. I've been following Jennifer and all of you for a while, and I actually I just applied at the beginning with just like, yeah, I will apply. Maybe something happened, and it's been an incredible journey. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. And part of your prize package means we're bringing you to the Vegan Women's Summit. So we're going to see you live in New York in May. And we will all be there. So congratulations again, Verónica. Let's give her a virtual round of applause. And you are officially our 2022 Pathfinder winner. And the next up after this, we're going to all hop into the speed networking to celebrate such an awesome day. So maybe Verónica's going to be in there. Maybe you might catch me, Manon. Who knows who you'll find? So stay on, and we will be emailing out with their post-event survey the winner of 2 tickets. So get to posting still to the end of the day. And congratulations again to everybody. You are all winners. You're all kicking butt. And the future of food is female. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
We will see you all in the speed networking.